That day, ominous black monoliths fell from the sky, and then the barrier was deployed. Terrible monsters known as beasts of calamity have broken through the barrier and invaded the human world. Linga, the demon of destruction, appeared, towering over the city and wreaking havoc. They committed a real massacre of humanity. The father shouts to his son to run, sacrificing himself. The mother protects her son by creating a vortex of blue energy around him. The mother, with all her might, begs her son to run while he cries and calls for her. Itsuki wakes up from a nightmare, hearing someone calling his name. The girl asks the thoughtful Itsuki what happened, but he replies that nothing happened. She looks at him doubtfully and asks if it's true. Then she points to a tear on his cheek and asks why he is crying. His bespectacled friend jokes that Itsuki wants to sleep during the school assembly. After the beasts appeared, the awakened appeared. And 10 years ago, the Great War of the Crossing took place. Attacks have become less frequent, but monoliths are appearing more frequently. And a large-scale attack may happen soon. The friend is surprised that Itsuki doesn't know this person, because it is the Commander-in-Chief Izumi Nento. He explains that Nento was the first awakened, and that it is thanks to him that they know about the monoliths. Moreover, the strongest awakened, the holder of the title Light of Humanity, was his disciple. Recent research has shown that even ordinary people can become awakened by touching the monolith. This is precisely why he came, so that everyone could become awakened and dedicate themselves to fighting the beasts. Students are thrilled when a monolith rises from the ground and pray for awakening. A friend happily tells Itsuki that they finally have a chance, but he looks gloomy. The friend runs ahead, and the girl asks Itsuki to wait his turn. Itsuki stands with his back to the girl, his eyes glowing ominously red. He smiles ominously, thinking that this day has finally arrived. The first student touches the monolith, but nothing happens, and he is asked to leave. Students discuss that even if a natural athlete doesn't fit in, they don't have a chance. The observer in glasses continues to call the next students one by one. The crowd is growing restless, as not a single person has yet awakened. The observer calls out the name of the next student, Oishi Hikaru. The students don't want the bully Oishi to gain power, and suddenly the monolith begins to change. When Oishi touches the stone, bright blue lightning bolts burst from the monolith. Oishi awakens as a lightning elementalist and dreams of Nento's attention and the beauty. The girl in armor tells her father over the phone that they finally have one awakened. Oishi rejoices and waits for old man Nento to address the first one to awaken. Suddenly, Itsuki, whose face is hidden in the shadows, grabs his shoulder. Oishi, in a rage, screams at them not to touch him with dirty hands and threatens Itsuki. The crowd recognizes Itsuki and decides that he is finished, since Oishi is targeting him. Itsuki approaches the monolith, and Nento senses an incredibly strong emotion from him. He touches the stone, remembering his hatred of beasts and declaring that his determination is special. A huge, ghostly figure appears behind him, radiating power. The monolith splits, and a powerful turquoise energy envelops Itsuki. The energy explodes upward, forming a giant, glowing flower above the school. The students are shocked and shout that this phenomenon is amazing, and the flower is hundreds of meters high. The instructor explains that this is a phenomenon of the rarest Order Destroyer class. Tenma awakens in the center of a glowing flower, not understanding where he is or that he has awakened. A window appears in front of him, informing him that he is a level 0 Order Destroyer. His stats are 0, but Nirvana's special gift increases them to 200. Tenma realizes that he can become stronger by learning skills and gaining stats. He confidently declares that he has become awakened and will now destroy the beasts of disaster. A bright flash of light blinds everyone around, forcing them to close their eyes. Tenma's silhouette appears in the center of the glow, and his opponent can't believe his eyes. The instructor is amazed by his performance. Not believing that he is a newbie, Tenma appears to everyone as the strongest, and his new characteristics confirm this. Teachers and students rejoice, because the emergence of such talent will go down in the history of the school. Oishi is furious because Tenma stole the applause that was meant for him. Surrounded by lightning, he says that such a loser should have remained a nobody. He rises into the air and attacks Tenma with his new skill, Silver Snake. The Tenma system detects the skill and activates super messes to analyze it. The skill analysis process rapidly progresses while Tenma watches calmly. A powerful bolt of lightning strikes the floor, But Tenma is no longer there. Everyone is confused and looking for Tenma, who disappeared after the electrical flash. Tenma suddenly appears behind Oishi and grabs him by the head, paralyzing him with fear. He whispers menacingly that Oishi was lucky to be born human. Otherwise, he would already be dead. Tenma throws Oishi away, and the other students laugh at how scared he was. The skill analysis is completed, and the system notes its extremely high speed. Tenma gains a new C-rank skill called Thunder Wave. The students notice that it is glowing again, and one of them puts on sunglasses. Tenma realizes that he is being pulled into this space after each skill analysis. Learning Thunder Wave increases all of his stats by 10 points. Oishi and his friends are horrified to see that Tenma is now covered in lightning himself. His stats have increased again, and now each of them is equal to 210. The sky suddenly darkens. It starts to rain, and the students notice something falling. A huge, dark monolith, surrounded by lightning, falls from the sky directly onto the school. The instructor shouts that it is a monolith, announces evacuation, and realizes that she is the target. She panics and calls on everyone to run, as fighting is not their specialty. Her companion says that running away will increase panic and points to the brave guy. Tenma walks alone towards the monolith while everyone else runs away. He tells his friends to leave, declaring that he will destroy every beast of calamity. His friends try to stop him, saying that he has just awakened and should not fight. Tenma moves forward, and his comrades look in fear at the approaching beast. Tenma smiles maliciously at his first enemy after awakening. He realizes that the monster is the same kind that killed his parents, and considers this lucky. A window with the characteristics of a level 8 skeleton soldier appears in front of him. Surrounded by lightning, Tenma decides to try out his new skill. It attacks the enemy with a powerful discharge of electricity. The guy swears that he will not allow anyone else to get hurt. The skeleton screams in pain as lightning strikes it. The onlookers were amazed as the newcomer knocked back the level 8 beast with one blow. The man in the helmet explains that skeletons have 2 dangerous abilities. The second ability turns out to be the Bone Flame skill, which incinerates everything around. Friends shout Itsuki's name, and the bully gloats that only ashes will remain of him. The system begins analyzing the enemy's skill, and progress increases with each hit. The girl with glasses is horrified and thinks that even a 10th level awakened person wouldn't be able to withstand it. Tenma feels his body burning and endures the pain as the analysis continues. The older man watches from the sidelines, certain that Itsuki hasn't given it his all yet. When the analysis is complete, Tenma declares that the enemy is finished. The teacher in glasses is disappointed, but someone notices the appearance of a blue lotus flower. Tenma gains a new skill, Black Ice Barrier, which increases his stats. His status has increased significantly, and he is now confident that he can break through the enemy's defense. Blue lotus petals bloom around his completely healed body. Friends and teachers rejoice, not believing in his miraculous and complete recovery. The girl is amazed by his self-healing and notes the mystery of the Order Destroyer class. Tenma himself is surprised by the perfect healing and ponders its limits. The skeleton soldier roars in fury, engulfing himself in blue flames once again. Tenma prepares to counterattack by coating his hand in black ice. It creates a wall of ice that completely blocks fire attacks. His hand turns into a huge ice weapon surrounded by lightning. Tenma dons a full suit of black ice armor in preparation for battle. He delivers a crushing blow with his new ice blade. The students were shocked by his speed, as if he had teleported behind the beast's back. Observers can't believe this guy is actually a rookie. He realizes that the new divine skill creates both armor and weapons. His friend happily hugs him, and Tenma asks where Saya is. The comrade replies that Saya did not come and recently looked at the house with a sad look. The girl knight is amazed by her victory over the monster and is ordered to help with the cleaning. A friend suggests that Saya went to the monolith, afraid of being left behind. The students see Nento Izumi talking to Tenma and wonder if he will become his disciple. Tenma's friend says an awkward goodbye and leaves to look for Saya. Nento, looking at the defeated enemy, tells Tenma that he is very special. Tenma asks in surprise what special means. Nento notices that Tenma's heart is filled with rage and hatred. He wants to know what caused the young man to become so angry. Tenma begins to tell the story of how animals killed his parents 10 years ago. He himself was almost killed then, but he was saved by an awakened warrior. He watched his mother die, telling him to go on alone. Little Tenma screamed in horror, blaming himself for the death of his parents. But then the boy realized that it was not he who was to blame, but the monster who killed them. At that moment, he swore to himself that he would definitely avenge his family. Tenma ends the story by promising to kill all devils and their ilk. Nento is surprised that Tenma can still cry with such a heart. Tenma explains that his right eye of the dead keeps him from forgetting his hatred. Nento invites Tenma to become his disciple and join the Alliance of Saviors. This is an organization of the strongest awakened, created to fight the beasts. He talks about resources, weapons, and high salaries for saviors. In return, rescuers are expected to fight on the front lines. Tenma says that money or resources are not important to him. Something else is important to him. All he needs is the opportunity to fight the beasts, and he agrees to become a savior. Nento explains that to do this, you need to get into the top 100 in the tournament. Nento hesitates to reveal the record lest he discourage the young man. The record of 115,000 points was set a year ago by Kazunari Tsutsumi. Tenma remembers that Kazunari Tsutsumi is said to be the strongest awakened. Nento encourages Tenma, saying that with his talent, he can become Kazunari's equal. Tenma confidently declares that he will not only become Kazunari's equal, but will surpass him. Elsewhere, someone tells Kazunari that he has become very popular among the youth. But Kazunari believes that one day, someone will appear who can surpass him. He is looking forward to this day, and it looks like this day has come. Nento leads Tenma to a huge futuristic building that looks like a stadium. Nento explains that the building is built around a monolith, a portal to the animal world. If the monolith itself is not destroyed, monsters will continue to appear endlessly. The building is isolated by an invulnerable monolith, and the animals inside are used for training. Tenma understands that this is a training complex called stages. Nento warns that this stage is very dangerous and is called the beginner's graveyard. However, Kazunari completed it in 3 minutes immediately after waking up. Nento challenges Tenma to complete the stage in under 3 minutes. He promises that if Tenma succeeds, he will take him as a student. In the hall, people recognize Nento Izumi and look in surprise at Tenma walking with him. Tenma is surprised that his companion turns out to be so famous. Tenma sees on the scoreboard that the beast's level at stage 10 is higher than that of the skeleton. Those around him are discussing why the newcomer is so calmly preparing for a dangerous stage. Tenma approaches the reception desk and asks permission to enter the stage. Tenma calmly states that he came alone. The girl at the counter is angry, considering his visit a dangerous and stupid joke. People around him whisper that he just came to meet a girl. Tenma coldly replies that they were mistaken, and he is here for a test. The employee wearily offers him her contacts, just so he would go home. Tenma threateningly demands to be allowed onto the stage without further ado. The frightened girl reluctantly agrees, handing him the access bracelet. As he puts on the bracelet, he hears taunts that this is the end for a newcomer. Observers argue that even a special gift won't save you at level 0. He approaches the entrance, knowing that the bracelet with his data will open the passage. The system confirms the entry of the awakened Itsuki Tenma for 3 minutes. Once inside, Tenma eagerly warms up his hands before the fight. His eyes glow red and he takes on a furious fighting stance. He runs towards the tower across a huge field, stepping onto an artificial stage for the first time. Tenma immediately attacks the 4th level tree spirit. In battle, he sees the monster's characteristics, which are not a problem for him. With an icy axe in his hands, he mocks his chopped-up enemy. Before him stretches a whole field of the same monsters, which he calls rotten wood. Meanwhile, the mysterious mentor explains that he brought Tenma here for superiority. His companion doubts that it is possible to surpass Tsutsumi without becoming something more than human. She remembers how Tsutsumi, with cold and detached eyes, killed the beast. Those eyes in her memory were completely inhuman. She comes to the conclusion that these were the eyes of a real god. The master says that Tenma is a devil consumed by hatred. Tenma proves in a fierce battle that he is the complete opposite of Tsutsumi. He easily defeats the monsters, noting that his skill doesn't even activate on such weak ones. Suddenly, a huge boss monster with glowing eyes appears from the shadows. Tenma quickly dodges the giant beast's powerful blow. Having defeated this opponent, he asks in disappointment if that is all. He doesn't believe that this place is called the Newbie's Cemetery because of the 10th level beast. Suddenly, The system detects a new skill in the enemy and begins to analyze it. The defeated monster begins to rapidly regenerate from the rubble. Tenma is captured and is surprised that the enemy came back to life after being wounded so badly. He understands that everything is not so simple, because the spirit has acquired a gift and enhanced self-healing. The monster's stats increase dramatically, and Tenma activates Black Ice Wall. He charges forward to deal massive damage and stop regeneration. Tenma unleashes a flurry of attacks on the monster while the system analyzes the skill. It delivers a crushing vertical strike of icy energy. With a mad grin, he promises to chop the enemy into pieces without a chance of recovery. With a powerful blow, Tenma cuts the giant monster in two. Tenma admits that his magic is almost drained due to using the ice wall for so long. He irritably dodges attacks because the enemy still does not die and constantly regenerates. With each regeneration of an enemy, the speed of analysis of their mimicry ability increases. He decides to turn off the wall in order to save magic and continue the analysis until the bitter end. The time until the 3-minute limit is getting shorter, and the analysis has reached 75%. He decides to use both abilities at once to force the enemy to regenerate and speed up analysis. He understands that he will die if he cannot activate mimicry at 0 magic. He resigns himself to the possibility of death, considering it an indicator of his true level. With glowing red eyes, he gathers his last strength for the decisive blow. Pierced by thorns, he finds that his magical energy has completely run out. He grins triumphantly, as activating mimicry requires no magic, and the analysis is complete. The self-healing analysis is complete, and Tenma gains a new skill, Lotus Burst. The system describes a new skill that deals damage to enemies within a 5-meter radius. Upon reaching level 2 of this skill, it heals all wounds and removes negative effects. The system prompts Tenma to immediately activate the acquired Lotus Burst skill. A powerful blast of fiery energy falls upon the enemy, consuming them completely. He evaluates the power of the new ability, admitting that Lotus Burst turned out to be quite good. He is surprised that Remy Matricia restored his magic from scratch and thinks about the battles to come. In the middle of the smoking crater, he notices a green crystal left behind by the monster. The observer panics because the newcomer does not come out for almost 3 minutes and wants to call the rescuers. Her colleague doubts that it is possible to complete the 10th level scene in less than 3 minutes. Suddenly, the screen turns green, announcing a new record, leaving the onlookers in shock. The girl with glasses can't believe her eyes, because he actually passed the test. Everyone can see on the scoreboard that Tenma completed the test in 2 minutes and 14 seconds. The door opens and everyone sees a wounded Tenma lying unconscious on the floor. Spectators are shocked to hear how a level 0 rookie has broken the record by a full minute. Tenma smirks and addresses the armored warrior, calling him Sensei. The warrior praises Tenma as his student, and the girl next to him is surprised by his reaction. The crowd understands why he broke the record, but doubts his future growth. The female observer gives him a gift for the record and apologizes for her past behavior. He accepts the gift and says that her attempt to stop him proves her concern. The girl is embarrassed by his gratitude and modestly replies that it's nothing special. The girl with glasses impatiently calls out to Tenma, saying that they are leaving without him. She warns him not to get cocky and suggests increasing the difficulty of the next tests. Sensei says that with his abilities, Tenma is ready to challenge the advanced stage. The teacher explains that level is not the only factor in a calamity beast's strength. He continues that the most important factor is the species, and that unintelligent monsters are easy to defeat. However, there are species with intelligence superior to humans, and they are very dangerous. The girl adds that characteristics and classes vary depending on the type of creature. She concludes that his next destination will be the advanced scene in the Northern District. He reflects that if the beast has intelligence, then it must feel pain. The girl with glasses is frightened by his aura and does not understand what he is even thinking about. People are discussing rumors about an advanced stage where awakened people disappear, and Reiji Kinoshita is mentioned. One of them warns his friend not to speak loudly about Reiji, otherwise he will kill him. Reiji Kinoshita, the son of the Northern District Chief, enjoys luxury and power. Reiji states that all the scenes in the Northern District are under his control, and he decides when to go. He smirks arrogantly, thinking that standing in line is the lot of commoners. The master shows him a stone in a box, saying that it is from that very time. He asks if Itsuki has ever seen the Karma Stone. Itsuki remembers how a similar stone fell after defeating the beast, but notices a difference. He clarifies that the stone he saw was green. Ageha is shocked, because it is an intermediate Karma Stone, and asks what it is. She explains to the newcomer that another name for the Karma Stone is the Experience Stone. When a beast dies, it releases an invisible substance called karma, or experience points. Using the Karma Stone, which contains experience sealed inside, is one way to level up. Ageha is surprised because Karma Stones shouldn't appear naturally at that stage. The master suggests that this is most likely the influence of Itsuki's gift. The girl asks again with surprise what gift of his he is talking about. Usually the winner absorbs karma, but Itsuki didn't level up, so he didn't do that. He guesses that the karma of the beast that attacked the school was absorbed by the awakened one's presence. That is, they. Because Itsuki was unable to absorb the karma in the isolated space, it hardened and became stone. Ageha wonders how his stats grow if he doesn't level up. The master sharply reminds her that the gift of the awakened one is an absolute secret, and she apologizes. The master leaves the stone to his discretion and says that he is leaving for a meeting, but first he will give a couple of tips. He gives 4 instructions, the main one of which is to always do the right thing and believe in your own strength. Itsuki answers with a confident smile that he understands everything, master. At the stage entrance, security guards prevent a group of people from entering, claiming that it is reserved for Kinoshida's son. The guy with blue hair is indignant that they are not allowed to enter first, while the rich man has not even arrived yet. He threatens to report them to the guild, but a menacing shadow with red eyes appears behind him. The huge man sends the screaming boy flying with one blow. His comrade is horrified that his B-rank skill, Earth Spike, didn't work. The masked attacker didn't suffer a scratch from the powerful attack. The blonde realizes in fear that he is facing a monster, since his technique did not cause any harm. The masked man looms over him, preparing to deliver a crushing blow. He punches the guy hard in the face, breaking his jaw. Observers recognize the attacker as Oga Take, one of Reiji's pillars and a level 12 metal user. Oga Take warns the crowd that he will deal with anyone who dares to enter the stage without permission. He states that the two will rot here and warns others against trying to help them. The other guards watch the proceedings with amusement, making caustic jokes. Oga Take chuckles and forcefully slams the guy's head into the ground. The main character carries out a beaten guy, and his companion looks on with concern at what is happening. People around him whisper that the guy is a 0-level person and is doomed, and someone recognizes his companion. A muscular character blocks the newcomer's path and threatens him with cruel reprisals. The hero declares that he needs to win to pass, but his companion considers this selfish. The hero with shining eyes says that he must do what he thinks is right with all his might. He hands the wounded man over to his companion and asks her to help the other victims. The enemy sees the guy's status and is surprised by his rare profession despite his 0 level. Oga Take feels the pressure, but is confident that the 12-level difference cannot be overcome. The rapidly approaching silhouette of the protagonist is reflected in Oji's eyes. The hero delivers a lightning-fast blow straight to the face of his opponent. Observers are amazed by its speed and doubt that it is truly level 0. Oga blocks the blow by turning his face into solid metal with a skill. He is about to strike with his metal hands. Oga states that the guy lacks strength and throws him away with a powerful blow. Itsuki realizes that to win, he needs to increase his agility with Thunder Wave. He decides that the enemy is dangerous enough to activate the Super Mimesis skill. Realizing that normal attacks won't penetrate the defense, he decides to aim for unprotected flesh. Oga mocks him, calling him a weakling without strength or speed. When the enemy is relaxed, the hero accelerates with the help of a Thunder Wave. Oga is shocked when he sees the Thunder element and realizes that he won't have time to apply metallization. The hero unleashes a barrage of blows on the enemy while his system analyzes the enemy. The audience doesn't believe that a level 0 can use another class's skills and defeat Oga. Oga is unable to metallize due to the speed of the attacks and realizes that he will lose the fight. He can't even call for help as lightning bolts paralyze his body. Pushed to his limits, Oga decides he has no choice but to take the risk. With a loud cry, He strains all his muscles, tearing his clothes. Oga thanks Itsuki for making him metalize his entire body for the first time. He boasts that his defense now exceeds 500 units thanks to the double boost. As a reward for helping him master the skill, he promises to grant the hero a quick death. The spectators are horrified, because no one can break through the 500-unit defense of the 12th level. Itsuki guesses that full metallization requires a lot of mana, which Oga shouldn't have. Oga is amazed by the level 0 guy's insight and calls his words nonsense. The hero declares that he will not wait for the mana to run out, but will finish everything immediately. The hero's companion recognizes this power and understands that Itsuki will become stronger again. The observers see the Blue Lotus and do not understand how he is going to defeat Oga with it. Itsuki thinks that his new skill ignores defense, and against a stationary target, speed doesn't matter. He looks at the enemy and swears that he will tear his absolute defense to pieces. The system announces the receipt of the penetrating true sphere and an increase in all characteristics. He extends his hand forward and activates his new devastating skill. Spectators are wondering if a level 0 skill can penetrate the defense of a level 12 specialist. In front of a crowd of spectators, he materializes a dark energy sphere. His opponents scoff, calling the powerful sphere a pathetic little ball. Confident in his invulnerability, King's Fang considers the threat naive. He looks defiantly at the sphere, preparing to take his opponent's blow. He predicts a miserable death for the hero, unaware of the power of the attack. The sphere pierces his body, tearing the impenetrable defense into pieces. The hero explains that he restrained himself and aimed at the arm, not the neck. He coldly orders his henchmen to take the wounded man to the hospital. His icy gaze and command to get lost leave no doubt about his strength. The spectators rejoice, celebrating an unexpected and crushing victory. The other awakened ones immediately offer to join him in clearing the stadium. They argue, offering him mana healing for infinite use of the orb. He realizes that powerful enemies are perfect for empowering his new ability. The two awakened ones eagerly await his decision on choosing a team. He refuses all offers, deciding to act alone. His decision to take on the elite stage alone shocks those around him. The others consider his actions arrogant and decide to look for another group. The girl is worried whether he will have enough mana to deal with enemies with such high defense. She sheepishly denies her concern, citing possible problems with her father. Finally, she warns him about the group attacks of the Stone Tribe. He confirms entry to the stage, and the system approves his access. He surveys the battlefield and realizes that there are many more enemies than he expected. Rock monsters at the elite stage are much stronger than the previous ones. The system window shows the stats of a level 9 stone statue. He prepares to test whether the sphere's passive effect will work on these monsters. The penetrating true sphere activates, flaring with bright purple energy. He launches an energy ball straight at the approaching stone beast. The sphere easily pierces the monster, and the system confirms its destruction. The sphere's speed doubles, and it pierces the next enemy in its path. A whole horde of enraged stone monsters appears before him. He understands that slow-moving monsters are the perfect target for his skill. With each defeated enemy, the sphere's speed continues to rapidly increase. He stands on a mountain of rubble, calculating that he has enough mana for 2 more shots. There are 3 enemies left ahead, and the boss still hasn't appeared. He decides to destroy 2 enemies at once with 1 shot to save mana. The sphere strikes the ground, causing a powerful explosion and raising clouds of dust. Using the explosion as cover, he makes a swift dash towards the enemy. It lures the monster into the path of the returning powered sphere. His plan works, and the sphere destroys 2 enemies at once, including a level 10 one. Completely exhausted, he falls to the ground and dreams of a mana restoration skill. The hero notes that his speed has increased to 5 meters per second, which is enough for a chase. The enemy activates the gigantification skill, turning into a huge stone monster. The hero activates Thunderwave to increase agility, being amazed by the enemy's size. He doubts that his penetrating sphere will be able to defeat such a gigantic opponent. The guy decides that his only chance of winning is a precise blow to the head. He rushes into the attack, aiming straight at the stone giant's head. The hero realizes that his sphere is too small and will not cause enough damage to the giant. Unable to dodge in midair, he activates Black Ice Wall to defend himself. The impact knocks him back, and the system begins to copy the enemy's gigantification skill. The hero smirks, realizing that he can copy the skill and this will make his task easier. Elsewhere, a man in a suit is startled by the sudden noise of a chandelier breaking. His red-haired boss angrily orders him to be quiet in his presence. The subordinate apologizes for the unforeseen circumstances, and the boss asks what happened. He reports with alarm that someone has defeated the King's Fang and broken into the stadium. Suddenly, the boss is hit by an attack, and he can't believe that someone was able to break through his defense. The subordinate explains that all the high-level awakened are busy due to the influx of monoliths. The boss doesn't believe that a newbie could defeat the King's Fang and demands more information. He hesitates whether to act immediately or to exercise caution because of the unknown enemy. In a rage, he orders them to move out immediately, without forcing him to repeat the order. He vows to make his enemies regret ever going against the Renoshita family. The skill copying is complete, and the hero happily declares that he will no longer have to run away. The system confirms successful analysis of the B-rank gigantification skill. Instead of a new skill, his penetrating true sphere leveled up and gained a new effect. He notes that the passive effect has been strengthened, and most importantly, he can now change the size of the sphere. He decides to immediately try out the improved skill, which also healed him and increased his stats. The hero spends all his mana to create the largest penetrating sphere possible. A huge sphere crashes down on the stone giant, completely destroying it with a powerful blow. He admits with a grin that he may have overdone the attack a bit. The system reports victory and an increase in the sphere's speed, and he is surprised by its enormous size. He speculates that the sphere's speed has reached 7 meters per second and will soon become even higher. He understands the benefit of passive effects, as his sphere's speed has already increased by 700%. He remembers another passive skill, Lotus Burst, which increases the range of all his attacks. He dreams of one day being able to defeat enemies from thousands of meters away using this skill. Observers were shocked that he broke the record by completing the stage in 3 minutes. They see him come out unharmed and can't believe he's still a level 0. The blue-haired woman with glasses notes that he passed the test again without a scratch. She is surprised by his speed, and he explains that the monster's defenses were weak. The hero notices a glowing butterfly on his hand and asks what it is. The woman explains that she is a Shikigami user, and the butterfly is one of her creations. He sees a Shikigami for the first time and admires the beauty of the jade butterfly. The hero is interested in what professions the awakened have, but the woman is surprised by his ignorance. She explains with a grin that there are only 4 types of professions, and he should have already seen 3 of them. The first type, the elementalist, controls the 7 elements and is the most common profession. She reminds him of a classmate who was an elementalist who used lightning. She also classifies Uga, the muscular guy the hero fought earlier, as this type. The second profession is a Shikigami user, capable of summoning creatures that obey him. She is a Shikigami user herself, and her butterfly has been by her side since birth. The woman asks if he has any questions at this stage of the explanation. The hero notices that her level is lower than that of a Shikigami and doubts her experience. She is angered by his tactless question, and she is mentally outraged by his straightforwardness. She explains that Shikigami also absorb experience, so their level is often higher than that of their masters. He understands that in a fight with such an opponent, one must attack the user himself, and not his creations. The woman again feels his dark aura and becomes frightened, not understanding its nature. The hero interrupts her thoughts and asks her to tell about other professions. The third profession, according to her, is the most mysterious, and almost nothing is known about it. She reveals that his own profession is called Order Breaker. This profession is mysterious because each of its representatives has unique abilities, like his Blue Lotus. As an example, she mentions those who can change their body size or create infinite clones. There are even order breakers who can stretch their bodies like rubber. Normal jobs have skills divided into ranks, but smashers have Z-rank skills outside of the system. Their unique skills make them considered special, and their discovery deprives them of their main weapon. She considers him unusual, as he uses at least 3 skills, 2 of which are available to elementalists. He thinks to himself that he doesn't like the way she keeps talking about his abilities. He asks about her latest profession, but she decides to keep the suspense. She will tell him about it later, as punishment for his secrecy. He agrees, and she informs him that the student he saved is safe, and asks about his plans. He wants to go through the stage again, but She says she has a 2-day cooldown. The hero is surprised by the cooldown and decides that he needs to increase his passive skill to strengthen Lotus Burst. Then he asks if there is a stage with a large number of spirit beasts. She confirms with a sly smile that such a stage does indeed exist. This is the Locust Wasteland, where the beasts are low in level, but their sheer numbers scare away many awakened. She doubts his success without an area attack, but he confidently agrees, knowing about his hidden skill. She honestly warns him about the difficulties, but he asks him not to worry while other people are watching them. The observers are amazed by his fearlessness and decide to forget about him, fearing the Kinoshita clan. Meanwhile, a man with purple hair arrives at the scene and suggests getting out of there. His companion confirms that the target has left, but he doesn't believe that he passed the flaming rock of execution in half an hour. He can hardly believe what has happened, and, thinking about his next steps, he realizes that he is being mocked. He orders the hound to be contacted so that it can track down the magical traces left by the skills. In a rage, he vows to capture the fugitive alive and make him experience real hell. Meanwhile, the killer in the alley regrets the hit, not expecting Kinoshita to have such a strong ally. The killer, breathing heavily, thinks that the ground escape technique saved his life. He decides that since he has come this far, he is now safe. Suddenly, a huge wolf monster pounces on him from the darkness. The monster sinks its teeth into the head of its victim with a crunching sound. The voiceover asks Death to calm down because the victim wants to say something. The bleeding killer asks with his last strength how he was found. The mysterious man in the hat replies that he has a very keen sense of smell. Wolfdog Charles explains that he smells death on people like him. In horror, the killer, with tears in his eyes, begs not to kill him. Charles smirks that he can't disobey Mr. Kinoshita. He orders his pet Death to begin his meal. A wolf with glowing eyes prepares to tear apart its prey. After killing him, the Death Hound finally levels up. He receives a call informing him that the stubborn enemy has been seriously wounded in a weak spot. Charles calls Death to follow him because they have new prey. The scene changes to the Locust Wasteland, where the hero asks if this is the right place. He looks at the wheat fields and wonders if there are really so many locusts here. His companion explains that monsters choose an environment that is suitable for themselves. The girl says that the danger level of the stage is so high that they want to close it. The hero does not understand why they want to dismantle him, because the level is low. She explains that the disaster monsters here are very aggressive, and there are many of them. If you let your guard down, you can be surrounded and eaten alive. The hero is glad that there are many monsters here, and the girl is surprised by his desire to die. He confidently states that he is not so desperate as to be eaten by bugs. The girl watches him enter the portal and thinks that he is okay. She decides that she has warned him about everything, and it is his full responsibility. Suddenly, she remembers that the locusts appear endlessly until the boss is defeated. At that moment, Charles comes up to her and says that he is looking for one person. The hero finds himself in a deserted area and calls on the pests to show themselves. He notices that the enemy's level is low, which is perfect for his skill. Status windows appear showing the first and second level of evil locusts. An incredibly huge swarm of insects appears in the sky. He smirks because this is what he needs, and creates a fiery lotus in his hands. The hero decides to destroy them all at once as soon as they enter the blast radius. The Lotus Burst skill activates, causing a blinding flash. Notifications pop up about defeating locusts and increasing skill range. He stands in the middle of the scorched earth as the messages continue to appear. The skill increases in level, and the passive effect reaches 110%. He estimates that he can increase his overall skill range by 1,000%. The hero reflects that without the reload time at this stage, everything would be easier. The hero realizes with alarm that the stage is not completed, although he expected it to be so. Suddenly, the system discovers a new skill, and the hero realizes that there are still enemies left. He is surrounded by a countless swarm of monsters rising from underground. Realizing that this is a boss skill, he chides himself for letting his guard down. He decides to use Lotus Burst again, but doesn't know where the boss himself is. The hero decides to destroy small enemies in order to lure out their leader. A powerful explosion destroys many locusts, greatly increasing the range of his skills. He notes the stunning effect and the increased range of his skill to 16 meters. Having defeated 110 creatures, He is puzzled why the boss never appeared. The monsters reappear, and the system continues to analyze the unknown skill. After checking his remaining mana, he realizes that he can use the explosion again. Determined, he prepares to destroy a new wave of enemies. Another explosion decimates enemies, increasing the power of his abilities again and again. A series of explosions greatly increases the attack's power, expanding its diameter to 54 meters. Having spent almost all his mana, he sees that the endless enemies do not end. He looks in despair at the endless swarm of monsters that has no end. The hero is considering retreating, as the boss does not appear and his strength is running out. Casting aside his doubts, he decides to destroy all the monsters, no matter how many there are. Exhausted, he struggles to stand as his body becomes covered in crystals. He sees with horror that the number of enemies has not decreased, and the analysis is almost complete. In a sudden realization, he realizes that all the monsters are level 1 and look like newborns. He finally figures out that the boss's ability, the Locust Queen, is infinite reproduction. He understands the futility of fighting the minions, but sees that the analysis is almost complete. The analysis is completed at 100%, and he gains the new skill, Mana Detection. He is happy with the new skill that increases his detection radius and restores mana. With a sly smile, he realizes that he could simply farm the monsters and ignore the boss. Remembering the girl waiting for him, he decides to quickly finish the stage and receives a boost. His stats increase, and he uses a new ability to find the boss. He discovers that the queen is trying to hide behind her own offspring. He confidently states that the range of his new attack of 120 meters will be sufficient. His attack hits its mark, and he smirks as he checkmates the queen. He pierces the queen locust, dealing her a fatal blow. After the death of the queen, the swarm instantly falls into chaos and disintegrates. With a burning hand, he promises the remaining monsters to send them after their mother. After the victory, his skills increased and his attack range increased to 131 meters. He is pleased with the bountiful harvest and plans to increase the passive effect to 5 figures. After leaving the stage, he sets a new record and thinks that Agaha must be nervous. He thinks tenderly of the girl, remembering her kindness and sweet sincerity. His hologram announces his return with a smile, but below he is met with a furious glare. The stranger holds the wounded Agaha and realizes that the hero is the one Kinoshita's squad is looking for. The man in the hat says he tried to find out information about the hero, but the girl turned out to be surprisingly persistent. The hero coldly orders her to take her dirty hands off, threatening to beat her otherwise. The villain laughs mockingly, calling the hero an arrogant level 0 rookie. Shrouded in lightning, the hero, his eyes glowing, rushes to attack the enemy. The man in the hat is horrified by the hero's speed and understands that he is in danger of death. The giant Shikigami dog blocks the attack, and the system begins analyzing the B-rank creature. The hero realizes that the man in the hat is a Shikigami user while the analysis continues. The villain notes the hero's high speed and precision of movements, understanding the reason for his subordinate's defeat. Grinning, he declares that he has his dog Death and a hostage. The death dog rushes at the hero, his toothy mouth wide open. The dog's owner boasts that Death's bite will crush any defense, and the hero will at best lose an arm. The hero counters the dog's attack by creating a sphere of dark energy in his hand. The energy ball explodes right in the monster's mouth, causing severe wounds. The hero looks at the defeated dog, thinking that without the Shikigami, his master is defenseless. The villain is confused as to how a newbie could know about the weaknesses of Shikigami users. It turns out that this Shikigami has a revival skill that reduces the resurrection time. The dog rises again, ready to make the unwary enemy his prey. The system notification about mana detection suddenly activates. The hero dodges the attack, realizing that activating mana detection was the right decision. The analysis is almost complete, but the hero fears that the appearance of the Blue Lotus will arouse suspicion. The villain is in a cold sweat, because the hero's strength and speed surpass his dog, and his detection skill prevents a surprise attack. He again threatens to kill the girl if the hero does not stop resisting. The hero decides to complete the analysis without allowing the Blue Lotus to appear, and progress reaches 100%. He gains the Shikigami Eater skill, and his stats are increased but not fully restored. The hero understands that there is a price to pay for skipping recovery, but he can still fight at full strength. Looking at the attacking dog, he realizes that his new skill allows him to steal other people's shikigami. With glowing red eyes, the hero declares that he is taking the dog for himself. With a powerful kick, shrouded in radiance, he throws the huge dog into the air. The owner yells at his dog in rage, not understanding why he fed him experience. The villain, in desperation, resorts to threats again, promising to wring the hostage's neck. The wounded girl, with her last strength, asks the hero not to worry about her. The hero raises his hands in surrender and asks not to touch the girl. The man in the hat smirks that with such behavior, the girl would not have suffered from the very beginning. The hero asks why the villain is targeting him, since he has done nothing to deserve hatred. The villain introduces himself as Charles Dog and explains that he must capture the hero on orders from Ryuji Kinoshita. The hero thinks about Ryuji Kinoshita and decides that he will have to meet him in person to settle everything. Charles threatens that death will now tear off the hero's legs if he values the girl's life. He points at the hero and loudly orders his dog to rip off both of his legs. But the hero turns to the dog with the order to prove that he is worthy of being his shikigami. The dog, with a new symbol on its forehead, turns around and latches onto its former owner. The main character, surrounded by lightning, holds a wounded girl in his arms. A long-haired man in a hat screams in rage, not understanding why his own servant is attacking him. The guy praises the huge blue wolf with glowing eyes for a job well done. The hero, overcome by a dark aura, vows to avenge Ageha's pain by returning it 100-fold. The frightened man offers a deal, begging to be heard and promising to lure out a certain Reiji. The protagonist, with glowing red eyes, coldly evaluates the proposal, calling it good. The villain tricks the hero and suddenly attacks him, shouting curses and throwing a magic projectile. However, the hero easily catches the attack and confidently declares that he can handle Reiji Kinoshita himself. He orders his wolf to make the enemy suffer as Ageha did. The man cries in horror and begs for forgiveness, calling his attack a mistake and asking for another chance. He calls out to the wolf named Death, reminding him that he was his master and fed him generously. While the wolf prepares to devour the traitor, the hero turns to someone invisible who has been watching him. He asks how long the pursuer intends to hide and invites him to show himself. A mysterious hooded man emerges from behind the grain, admitting that he has been spotted. The hero suspiciously asks the stranger if he is a friend of the man who was just killed. The stranger quickly removes his hood and assures that he is not an enemy, begging him to listen. The protagonist says he doesn't have time and tells the wolf to follow him when he finishes eating. The wolf marks the leg of a stranger, who understands that this man can save him. Iberia introduces himself and asks Tenma Itsuki if he is the mysterious guy from the Fang Kingdom. Iberia persistently offers Tenma help, promising to pay with mana stones or weapons. Tenma leaves, leaving Iberia confused as to why his offer of payment didn't work. In his memoirs, the blacksmith says that the reward requires ingenuity, like water in the desert. He explains that the best reward is what a person needs most, be it a blade or medicine. Iberia suddenly understands everything and resolutely clenches her fist. He catches up with Tenma and says that the wounded girl will die, because the hospital is very far away. Iberia takes out a glowing scroll and declares that he has just the cure. He shouts after the departing Tenma that he can save his companion. Tenma stops abruptly and asks with hope in his voice if this is true. Iberia confidently replies that she cannot heal her completely, but she will definitely save her life. Iberia explains that this is not an ordinary bandage, but a rare tool that can be applied over clothing. Iberia is surprised that Tenma doesn't know about tools, since he seems very strong. He explains that conventional weapons are useless against beasts, so artisans create special tools. Equipment is divided into 4 ranks, depending on the craftsman's level and materials. Normal equipment is almost no different from simple weapons, but can injure distress animals. Rare equipment, like the ocean sword, enhances some of the owner's stats. Epic equipment, like the bloody sword, has special effects in addition to stat boosts. Unique equipment is the ultimate goal for crafters and provides incredible buffs. Iberia says that artisans are not strong in combat, but they are respected for their ability to create equipment. Tenma guesses that Iberia's father is a craftsman, and he boasts that he is one of the 10 greatest. Iberia proudly states that his father created 3 unique items, which is how he received his nickname. Iberia enthusiastically introduces her father, the craftsman king of the northern continent. An irritated Iberia yells at Tenma, asking if he's even listening to him. Tenma ignores his complaints, examining the crossbow, which belonged to a boy named Charles. Iberia is surprised that Tenma is unimpressed, and he wonders how the crossbow will hide his powers. Tenma is worried about the lack of bolts, but Iberia says that regular arrows will do. The crossbow disappears, and Iberia explains that bound tools can be summoned. Tenma thanks him for the treatment and says that by law he needs to find Kinoshita Reiji. Iberia is amazed by his courage and asks if Tenma is going to surrender. Tenma denies this, suggesting they have a common goal, and asks if Iberia has angered him too. Iberia proposes to team up for the qualifying tournament, which Tenma has already heard about. Tenma doesn't see a connection with Kinoshita, but Iberia explains that the qualifiers will be held on his territory. As the son of an administrator, Kinoshita has his sights set on the main tournament, and losing would bring shame on the family. Tenma understands that he is monopolizing the stages for leveling up, and sees no reason for an alliance. Iberia is confident that they will pass the selection together thanks to Tenma's strength, who is surprised by his haste. Iberia pauses for a moment, gathering her thoughts to explain the reason. He remembers how, as a child, he admired his father, who created the perfect equipment. He always dreamed of becoming an awakened being and fighting beasts in the armor his father made. A month ago, he woke up, but his father refused to give him equipment, saying it was too early. After much persuasion, the father set a condition. He would give one item if his son passed the selection. Iberia therefore firmly states that it must win the qualifiers this year. Tenma doubts why the son of a great master needs him, a level 0, on the team. Iberia conveys the words of her father, who ordered her to pass the selection process on her own, and not using his name. He complains that Kinoshita bribed the strong participants, and the rest are already in teams or alone. But 2 days ago, he heard about the man who broke the record, and after a long search, he found Tenma. Tenma agrees, but first wants to take the girl to the hospital, and Iberia is happy about their partnership. While Tenma carries the injured woman, Iberia tries to come up with a name for their new team. Tenma thinks of Rito and Sai, and Iberia suggests a name based on their names. Elsewhere, a pink-haired girl hiccups during a workout, thinking they are talking about her. She remembers Itsuki with sadness and wonders how long they have been apart. Her training partner teases her about her worries about Itsuki. Confused, the girl attacks him with water magic, shouting a battle cry. The guy dodges and reproaches her for attacking from behind, reminding her to be vigilant. Sensei appears and interrupts them, saying that it is not the time to fool around before the preliminaries. Kisaragi Saya is glad to finally fight other awakened ones, not just Rimuru. Horino Rimuru is looking forward to a trip to a prosperous city he has never been to. Kinoshita Reiji is angry because his subordinate is late and suspects something is wrong. In a rage, he uses the tool stone, gaining experience and cursing his useless subordinates. He orders them to forget about the search because the selections are more important. Otherwise, their father will lock him up again. The bodyguard reports that they have convinced 887 participants to cooperate. Reiji praises his assistant, calling him the only one he can rely on. Reiji absorbs the last stone, gaining experience and leveling up. He feels a new strength and believes that it will be enough to defeat the commoners. Tenma apologizes to Sensei for his daughter Ageha getting hurt. Tenma suggests that Sensei get rid of Izumi if he is causing problems. He changes his mind and asks Sensei to let him deal with the situation himself. Sensei agrees and asks Tenma to tell him later about everything that happened. Izumi reflects on how Teacher 3 turned out to be the commander-in-chief and admires him. Sensei explains that he will participate in the tournament, and Tenma worries about Ageha's condition. Ageha reports that she has been completely healed thanks to the jade butterfly and a rare artifact. Sensei asks Izumi if he is Aiden's son since he owns his rare artifact. Izumi is amazed that Sensei knows his father and decides to behave with dignity. Izumi proudly and confidently declares that he is Aiden's father. Realizing his mistake, Izumi sheepishly admits that Aiden is actually his father. Sensei thanks Izumi for saving his daughter and promises to introduce him to Aiden. Sensei lets the boys go prepare for the tournament, promising that he and Ageha will cheer them on. Tenma and Izumi leave, confidently promising Sensei that they will pass the qualifying round. Ageha notices that her father is attracted to Tenma and remembers his past. Due to childhood trauma, Tenma developed a dangerous tendency towards self-sacrifice. This tendency only weakens when there are those nearby whom he wants to protect. Sensei explains that he placed Ageha next to Tenma on purpose. Ageha realizes that she must become someone Tenma wants to protect. Sensei reports that the attack on the school was planned and the number of traitors is growing. Looking out the window, the sensei gloomily declares that the future of humanity is shrouded in darkness. But he believes that Tenma can illuminate this darkness and become a light of hope. The action moves to the arena, where the Alliance qualifying tournament will take place. The arena was filled with more people than expected due to rumors about Izumi. Reiji reassures his assistant that they still have the numerical advantage. Participants discuss red ribbons as an identification mark for recruited fighters. Tournament host So Ryu Fujiwara prepares to announce the rules of the qualifying round. The host explains that the arena is divided into 2 zones, and the participants will start outside. Only the first 300 people who reach the inner zone will proceed further. Participants realize how strict the rules are, as several thousand people will be eliminated. The host allows the use of any means, and Izumi notices something important. One of the participants recognizes Reiji and orders his men to interfere with everyone else. Izumi suggests ambush on Reiji, but his plan is suddenly interrupted. Tenma stands up for the others after overhearing the opponent's plan, who notice him. The host gives the go-ahead, and the first stage of the qualifying tournament officially begins. The presenter is pleased with the large number of participants, but notes that quality is more important than quantity. Next to the presenter stands the mysterious Hiton Akira, whose characteristics are hidden. The host recalls the year when only Tenma and Hiton Akira participated in the tournament. Izumi laments that it will be boring without newcomers of Kazunari's caliber, but his interlocutor considers geniuses a rarity. Izumi asks about the rumor about a student who defeated a skeleton soldier immediately after waking up. A mysterious armored judge confirms that this is true. Izumi realizes that this man is among them, and his companion suggests that he has a rare talent. The host is looking for a genius on the tablet, but the first candidate, Harino Riku, is not suitable. The next participant, Kisaragi Saya, a water element user, is also not the sought-after genius. He guesses that it is Kana Hanyu, a wood element user with an abnormally high level of 16. The host is confused because no one comes forward, even though Hana has the highest level among the participants. Izumi asks about the level 0 contestants, and the host replies that they are eliminated quickly. A group of participants mock someone, surprised by the appearance of a person with level 0. The main character appears with a determined look and glowing green eyes. The red-haired bully is shocked to recognize him as Charles and asks who he is. The protagonist, with a piercing gaze, asks if the enemy was looking for him. Bully doesn't believe that this weakling brought down King's Fang and thinks that he came on someone's orders. Red Hair orders his men to remove him, and they readily agree. The hero is surrounded, but he releases purple energy, saying that he has no time for trash. Izumi watches his opponents, noting their levels, and believes that the outcome is predetermined. The blonde-haired guy in the hood reflects that it is impossible to deal with 4 opponents alone. He decides that he has no choice but to use his artifact. One of the attackers taunts the hero, disappointed that his first opponent is level 0. The protagonist, whose face is hidden in the shadows, calmly orders the enemy to retreat. The enemy freezes for a moment, and then bursts into loud laughter. Izumi watches the proceedings with a grin, approving of the newcomer's attitude. The attacker threatens to crack the hero's skull to see what's inside. The masked hero repeats the order to retreat, while the defeated enemy lies on the ground. Izumi is shocked as the newcomer instantly defeated a higher-level opponent. The remaining opponents panic as Honda was level 7, but one of them urges them not to panic. One of the enemies uses the B-rank skill Flamethrower, intending to burn the hero to ashes. The fair-haired observer is amazed by the speed of the attack and understands that he will not have time to use the artifact. The attacker gloats that death during the selection is a common occurrence for 0-level upstarts. Suddenly, the attackers notice something strange in the flames. An ice wall grows from the ground, completely blocking fire attacks. The blonde boy is impressed by how the hero completely blocked the powerful fire attack. The hero tells the observer to move away, and the system window shows the reflection of the attack and the increase in characteristics. He notices that his defense has increased by 33 points and checks the passive effect of the skill. The fire mage is horrified because the hero is unharmed and does not understand where he got the ice skill from. The hero provokes the enemy by offering to attack again, and promising not to block the blow. The enemy angrily asks if the hero is mocking him, to which he makes a promise. The fire mage uses his strongest B-rank move, Flamethrower Overheat. The hero stands calmly before the wave of fire, noting that it is still just a fire elemental skill. Enemies estimate the hero's attack power as rivaling level 8. The enemy is terrified of losing all his mana, but prepares to use his finishing move. The hero understands that the passive effect does not trigger repeatedly from the same skill. The hero announces that the test is complete, and it is time to end the battle. The big fighter is shocked that his ultimate move is blocked, but he is confident that he has found a weakness. The fighter activates the B-rank skill Fire Barrage, preparing to attack. The hero activates the Black Ice Wall to protect himself from multiple fireballs. The enemy decides to deplete the hero's mana, believing that his reserves are limited. The hero instantly closes the distance, and his passive effect only triggers once. The strong man grabs the hero, declaring that their strength is power, not speed. The hero in ice armor asks condescendingly whether the enemy is putting any force into the attack. The hero promises to ease the enemy's suffering and delivers a crushing blow. The hero notices that his defense is increased and understands the principle of calculating the boost. The hero decides to use the remaining enemies to enhance the passive effect, and they flee in panic. With glowing eyes, the hero asks if they think he will let them escape. Enemies desperately use a C-rank lightning skill, hoping it will work. The hero absorbs lightning, increasing his agility, which shocks the observer. The observer looks in amazement at the hero, surrounded by lightning, and does not understand who he is. The hero reflects on how Thunderwave's passive works the same as Black Walls. A blonde man in a blue hood appears and states that all enemies have been defeated. The blonde notes with surprise that he did not expect such strength from his partner. The defeated enemy, perplexed, asks who they are and what abilities they possess. The blonde man asks the hero with a grin who they are, to which he asks again in surprise. The blonde proudly announces their name, Double E, and declares that they will become the strongest duo. The hero interrupts him, saying that it's time to go after Kinoshita, while his partner laments the ruined moment. The defeated opponent repeats their name and contemptuously calls him stupid. A new character wearing glasses, surrounded by purple lightning, hears the noise and assumes the newcomer is being beaten. He notices the crossbow, realizes it belonged to Charles, and decides to deal with it later. He sees a figure flying away, and thinks that no one but the savior could have captured Charles. Another participant grins as he notes that he has overtaken yet another competitor, as he specializes in speed. Suddenly, the runner is struck by a bolt of purple lightning and screams in pain. He falls down, shocked, asking who dared to attack him during a full sprint. The character with glasses states that this is exactly what happens to those who run in front of him. He orders the crowd to gather and not waste his time on every little thing, maintaining their stamina. The blue-haired woman watches him, noting that he is the arrogant son of Administrator Kinoshita. The character in red admits it's against the rules, but is glad to be rid of the annoying guys. He looks at the entrance to the inner area, surprised at how easy it was to get to. He angrily searches for the one who treated him disrespectfully, and the crowd points to the level 0 rookie. The hero and his partner stand in the rain, and the crowd confirms that it is indeed him. The character in red can't believe that a newbie single-handedly defeated so many strong opponents. The villain in red mockingly asks how the 0-level trash is going to follow him. The partner thanks the hero, admitting that without him, he would not have been able to cope with the enemies along the way. The red-haired antagonist leaves, announcing that he has prepared several opponents for the hero. The villain with the burning eye orders his men to deal with the hero. The villain's henchmen surround the hero, mocking his low level and promising to show him hell. The blonde, in a panic, counts more than 100 enemies and asks in confusion what they should do. The protagonist suddenly orders his frightened comrade to hold his head. Powerful bolts of blue lightning erupt around the crowd of enemies. The hero instantly moves through the crowd and finds himself right behind the surprised villain. Finding himself in front of his enemies, the hero declares that since they did not understand him, he will repeat his words differently. With a determined face, the hero swears that he will not let any of them leave until they sort this out. The pink-haired girl and her partner complain that they were delayed on the way. The defeated guy can't believe that someone was faster than their team. Muscular warrior Gaku Oz is dissatisfied with his third-place finish. and his cat companion makes fun of him. The cat girl points to the first place, which is occupied by Kana Hanyu, who is level 16. The characters assume Itsuki is acting alone and notice someone flying straight towards them. Iberia lands next to them, and the system announces that he has reached 6th place. The fallen blonde desperately screams Itsuki's name. The girl and her partner looked at each other in amazement, realizing that they heard Itsuki's name. The hero stands with his back to the viewer, and someone confidently recognizes him by his silhouette. The hero, calling himself Itsuki, declares that he will not let the enemy go until they settle the score. Two observers wonder why the newcomer is so fixated on Reiji Kinoshita. A stranger in the shadows asks Hitensho to help a boy if he gets into trouble. Itsuki Tenma is amazed by the boy's incredible speed and doubts he could have done the same at his age. The villain rises, irritated by the hero's stubbornness, and orders him to get ready. The villain announces that now not just a fight will begin, but a real battle. The antagonist promises the hero complete humiliation, which he calls a massacre. The hero's thoughts show that his main goal now is to avenge Agaha, and not to pass the selection. Kinoshita points at the hero in a rage and yells at his men to go and kill him. Dozens of enemies with different abilities simultaneously rush to attack a lone hero. One of the attackers uses a fire strike and shouts that he will take the hero's head. The hero easily catches the flaming fist with one hand, shocking the opponent. The hero twists the enemy's arm and with a powerful movement drives him face first into the ground. The enemies are shocked by their comrade's defeat, but decide not to panic and attack all at once. The hero says it suits him, and the system reports increased defense after blocking an attack. The hero activates the Stream Burst skill to end this farce as quickly as possible. A powerful explosion of energy emanates from the hero, sweeping away all enemies surrounding him. The characters watching from afar are shocked, and the blonde asks if it was Itsuki's skill. The muscular warrior asks what the explosion was, but the cat girl replies that it is nothing to her. The observer is horrified by the explosion and does not understand how the newcomer used someone else's skill. The woman understands that Itsuki's skill has an area effect, and this explains his confidence. Itsuki decides to use only 30% of his power to avoid killing his opponents. With his blue eyes glowing, Itsuki declares to his last enemy that now only he remains. The red-haired opponent, horrified, asks who Itsuki is and why he is so fixated on him. Itsuki replies that the enemy attacked and wounded his friend first, and promises to return all her pain to him. The enemy boasts of his noble origin and the fact that he easily reaches levels unattainable for others. He shouts that he will kill Itsuki and uses a B-rank skill called Lightning Cannon Purple. The system detects the purple lightning gun skill and activates overmimesis to analyze it. Itsuki dodges the attack, and the defeated enemy despairs as he realizes that he cannot be defeated. The defeated enemy, hanging upside down, desperately screams and calls for help from a certain 40. A muscular man with red eyes decides to intervene, breaking the rules to save his comrade. The red-haired one threatens to be torn apart by a level 35 awakened being named 40. A muscular, black-haired man gives an order to Hitensho, who accepts it. Magic detection. Itsuki reacts to anti-magic, noticing a rapidly approaching enemy. Itsuki realizes that there is more than one person approaching when he sees a figure rushing towards him. Hitensho easily immobilizes 40 and smirks as he motions for Itsuki to continue. Itsuki, enveloped in dark energy, informs the enemy that his help will not come. The enemy, in terror, begs for mercy, mentioning his influential father and brother. Itsuki thinks with relief that his revenge for Agaha is complete. The girl is surprised by the guy's victory over Reiji Kinoshita, and does not understand why he is looking at her. Itsuki pauses the analysis at 99% to recover his stamina. Itsuki hears a familiar voice calling his name and turns around in surprise. The pink-haired girl calls him inside with concern so that he doesn't catch a cold. Itsuki greets the girl and the system announces that he has reached the inner zone in 7th place. The two boys happily hug Itsuki, shouting that they missed him very much and are glad that he is okay. The guy with glasses asks the blonde guy who he is and why he is crying so much because of Itsuki. The blonde proudly introduces himself as Iberia and states that he is Itsuki's partner. The guy with glasses calls Iberia a traitor, and the girl remarks that Itsuki rarely makes friends. Iberia asks what their team was called, but the guy with glasses thinks it's childish. Iberia states that they have a name, and the second guy asks for it. while Hitsuki is confused. Iberia proudly announces the name of their team, Double E, which they have been thinking about for a long time. The guy with glasses laughs at the pathetic name, and a shocked Iberia shouts that it's great. The presenter announces that 500 people have entered the inner zone, and the second stage will begin soon. The presenter explains that in the second stage, the participants will fight the spirit of disaster alone for an hour. Iberia is shocked that he will have to fight alone, while his friends are eagerly awaiting the start. The muscular Hitensho grins maliciously, saying that he has finally waited for this moment. The best participants of the first stage are shown, including Itsuki, Iberia, and other strong competitors. Participants head towards a huge circular arena, assuming that the second stage will take place inside. Inside the arena, a guy with glasses notes the gloomy atmosphere and asks if Itsuki's level has been recorded. His friends wonder how Itsuki gets stronger at level 0, but he replies that it's a secret. The girl is angry that the skills of order are a state secret, and Itsuki advises not to pay attention to them. 4 influential tournament organizers gather together, and one of them asks about readiness. Viewers are thrilled to recognize legendary figures including Soryo Fujiwara and Nento Izumi. Soryo explains the rules of the second stage, which involves defeating the calamity beasts on the training grounds. A hologram appears with points for different difficulty levels, from beginner to nightmare. After defeating the beast, there is a short break before moving on to the next difficulty level. A confident Gaku Oz declares that he immediately chooses the most difficult nightmare class. Itsuki interrupts the announcement, saying that he has one question for the organizers. Those around him mock Itsuki, assuming that he was scared and was simply dragged through. The organizer turns to the guy and allows him to ask the question that interests him. Itsuki calmly clarifies whether the nightmare class is really the limit of difficulty. The other participants laugh again, calling the guy a show-off who can't even handle the beginner level. Soryo cryptically replies that there is theoretically no upper limit to the difficulty of the beasts of disaster. His friend whispers that the nightmare requires a high level, and they will be lucky if they overcome the difficult one. The organizer explains that the points earned will carry over to the main tournament and will influence future events. Itsuki's team understands that points from this stage also count towards the main tournament. Itsuki remembers the record and decides to take the chance to surpass it. The command was given, and all participants began to enter the special test sites. Itsuki finds himself on an empty training ground, where the glowing eyes of his enemies are already waiting for him in the darkness. He is attacked by the calamity dogs and is delighted at the opportunity to fight real monsters. He activates the black ice wall, deciding not to waste time leveling up and to finish them off quickly. In the control center, Akira asks Soryo why he's watching that guy again. Akira replies with a grin that he finds this guy very interesting. Akira notices the attack has begun, but Soryo doesn't see anything surprising in it. Itsuki destroys all the dogs in just 1 second, instantly gaining 100 points. Soryo is shocked by the speed of his victory, and Akira smugly confirms that he is right. Soryo admits that the next opponent will be stronger, and it will be impossible to defeat him so quickly. The next enemy appears in front of Itsuki, a massive level 8 fire salamander. Observers are discussing how fighting a monster 8 levels higher will be very difficult. Soryo decides to look at the other participants, but Akira suspects that he is a distraction. He looks at the screen and notes that most of the fighters are still fighting with the initial class. Only one girl, Kana Hanyu, can keep up with Itsuki in terms of speed. Suddenly, the screen shows Itsuki being completely engulfed by Salamander's fire attack. Soryo panics and wants to call the paramedics, but Akira calmly asks him to wait and see. The guy activates the black ice wall, which turns into ice armor and protects him. Enveloped in ice armor, he swiftly attacks and cuts through the huge monster. He defeats Salamander in just 5 seconds, standing on her fallen body. Soryo doesn't believe the boy is unharmed, and Akira wonders why he took the hit on purpose. Itsuki sees that he blocked the attack and received a bonus, deciding to use every chance to strengthen himself. His status window shows increased stats, confirming the success of his tactics. Observers say this difficulty level tests the speed and combat acumen of the participants. A calamity beast, the electric rhino, appears, whose attack combines physical and lightning damage. Observers speculate that without proper protection or resistance to lightning, the boy's body will be pierced or paralyzed. Soryo speculates that to defeat the rhinoceros, He must use speed and attack when it is exhausted. Soryo screams in horror, not understanding what Itsuki is planning. Contrary to expectations, Itsuki calmly approaches the rhinoceros and touches its glowing horn. He decides that the beast's horn is ideal for testing his own defenses. Rhino attacks, directing the full force of the electric discharge straight at Itsuki. Akira notes that Itsuki is unpredictable but always exceeds all expectations. Itsuki absorbs a lightning skill, gaining agility buff. The test is complete, and he understands that attacks from beasts of level 10 and below can no longer harm him. With his red eyes glowing, he decides it's time to end the fight. He activates the Thunder Wave skill, greatly increasing his agility. An enraged rhinoceros prepares for a new attack. In just 7 seconds, he defeats the beast, receiving 1,000 points. Observers are amazed because he coped with it faster than Soryo did in his youth, and without even giving it his all. Itsuki prepares for the next opponent, remembering his lightning-fast movements and sharp claws. It represents a giant mouth, spewing out chains and devouring everything in its path. Then he thinks of a massive body covered in strong armor, like an exoskeleton. Soryo realizes that the next beast is the strongest in the qualifying round, and the ultimate goal of all participants. The Purgatory Giant, a nightmare-class beast of calamity, appears. Itsuki instantly defeats the giant, and the speed of his penetrating true sphere increases. The system records the incredible increase in the projectile's speed, while the surveillance camera monitors the events. The onlookers were shocked as he defeated a nightmare-class giant in just 3 seconds. In another location, the participant fights a beast that spews a stream of energy. Saya Kisaragi has almost finished her newbie class, hoping to move up to a regular class soon. Meanwhile, Gaku skips his break to go straight to the regular class tests. Kana Hanyu completely completes the normal class by restoring her magical energy. The system confirms the Nightmare class win within 21 seconds, awarding first place. The other participants are shocked by the news that someone has completed the test faster than them. Itsuki, holding a black sphere in his hand, calmly asks if it's okay to move on to the next stage. Soryo can't believe Itsuki killed the giant instantly, and Akira wonders about the nature of the black sphere. Grinning, Akira orders the difficulty to be increased to test the boy's limits. Itsuki sees that the difficulty has been increased simply by pitting 2 purgatory giants against him. One of the giants immediately rushes to attack. Itsuki decides to deal with one of the monsters while he is distracted. He activates Penetrating True Sphere and defeats the first giant, increasing the skill's speed again. The system shows that the overall speed of his sphere has increased to incredible values. Soryo is shocked by the one-hit kill and doubts if there is a limit to the ability's use. Akira claims that this powerful ability has a fatal flaw. Tenma is amazed by the enemy's speed, which surpasses anything he has seen. Observers discuss that giants are usually slow because of their bodies. Tenma concentrates dark energy, preparing for his next move. He activates the Penetrating True Sphere and launches it at the monster. Akira explains that this giant, despite its size, is very fast. The system displays the characteristics of a purgatory giant devoid of magic. Tenma is shocked because the giant managed to dodge his attack. Observers note that the sphere is slow, and the giant cleverly created the moment to strike. The giant deals a crushing blow, and the onlookers doubt Tenma's success. Tenma dodges and realizes that his opponent is keeping him at medium range. Akira guesses that Tenma has an ace up his sleeve since he attacked in vain. Tenma smiles ominously and decides to close the distance with the fast enemy. He activates Thunder Wave, causing the ground beneath him to crack with lightning. Surrounded by electricity, he prepares to meet the giant fist. Soryo panics and screams for help, believing the attack to be fatal. Akira calmly notes that the colossal force of the blow is useless without precision. The giant misses, and Tenma calmly calls him to him. Once behind the enemy, he shoots a sphere directly into the back of the monster's head. After victory, the speed of his sphere increases to 13 meters per second. The system reports that the battle took 12 seconds and points were awarded. Aegea screams in delight, and Soryo is surprised by her rare display of emotion. An embarrassed Aegea justifies herself, saying that she was simply worried about the future of humanity. One of the observers notes that Aegea has become much more talkative. Akira asks Agaya how she knew Tenma would be able to dodge. He reflects that the guy's normal speed is not much different from the giant's speed, but when Tenma's body is filled with electricity, his speed increases dramatically. The manager notes that Tenma secured first place despite taking a risk. Tenma thinks about his goal, wanting to surpass the strongest man. He decides not to stop for a second, continuing the test. The third phase begins and 3 giants appear in front of him at once. He immediately activates the sphere and instantly destroys the first monster. Akira smirked smugly, as he had expected Tenma to continue the fight. Soryo reminds Akira that he immediately went to the 4th phase. He believes that the 3rd phase is the limit even for Akira. The second giant rushes to attack Tenma, who is ready to dodge. Using Thunder Wave, he increases his agility and gets behind the enemy. By defeating the second one, he increases the speed of the sphere to 17 meters per second. Suddenly, the last giant opens its mouth and swallows him whole. Once inside, he activates Lotus Burst at full power. A powerful explosion tears the giant monster's head apart from the inside. The system reports victory over the giant and an increase in the range of skills. In 13 seconds, he gets 15,000 points while standing in the middle of the flames. The observer is shocked to recognize the skill that destroyed many in the first phase. The hero is completely exhausted. His magical energy is depleted. He's relying on a passive skill that will restore mana when enemies appear. 4 giants appear, and his skill restores 40% of mana. Observers say that only one person has ever gone through the 4th phase before him. He dodges the swift attack, and the observer ponders his limits. As the speed of enemy attacks increases, so does the probability of hitting him. The hero decides to increase his speed to attack the monster from afar. Knowing the limitations of his magic, he cannot afford to miss. A huge monster rushes at him, its toothy mouth wide open. The monster pins him down, and the hero realizes that he cannot use force. The monster's claws close, intending to crush him in its grip. The monster's blow is crushing, breaking his bones. The hero lies in the crater, seriously wounded and almost defeated. The old man panics and shouts at Akira to help the hero immediately. Akira recalls his own defeat, seeing it as the limit of his possibilities. Akira decides to intervene and save him, but the old man stops him. A mysterious figure stops them, claiming that Tenma has not given up yet. They argue because Tenma is in desperate situation and could die without help. Izumi is confident that the hero has one more ace up his sleeve. The old man is surprised, but Izumi explains that she sees everything in Tenma's eyes. Tenma activates the overmimesis skill, causing a shadow to appear behind him. He recalls how he began analyzing the Thunder Cannon skill during his fight with Reiji. He canceled the copying at the last moment, but the skill analysis was completed. He specifically completed the analysis to obtain the new skill, Thunder Break. Observers see the Blue Lotus and do not understand how it can help. Ageha looks happy, and Akira suspects that she knows something. A description of the new skill Thunder Break and its effects appears. After receiving the skill, he is fully healed and receives a bonus to his characteristics. He declares that the warm-up is over, and his stats are increasing. The old man is amazed by his instant healing and the number of his outrageous skills. He instantly defeats 2 giants, increasing the speed of his attacks. He easily completes the 4th phase and gets 20,000 points. His attacks become incredibly fast, destroying enemies one after another. He continues the cleanup, earning 25,000 points. He successfully completes the 6th phase, earning another 30,000 points. The observer wonders who the real monster is here, looking at the mountain of corpses. The tired hero lies among the defeated enemies and waits for the next wave. The observer in blue cannot believe what is happening in the arena. He despairingly says that it's all over for Tenma. The voice announces that the hero has defeated all the giants of purgatory. The wounded hero doubts that he has destroyed everyone because he spoke about his limit. He reflects on the points he has earned and the fact that he has surpassed a certain upper limit. The hero is pleased that he has achieved his goal and has significantly increased the speed of his sphere. He notes that his attack speed is now greater than that of a normal car. Suddenly, a powerful blue aura enveloped his body. He thinks that a new enemy has appeared. But then he remembers something important. All experience is converted into a huge karma stone, since it cannot level up. Observers are surprised by the appearance of a blue stone, which contains at least 10,000 experience points. The muscular man explains that Tenma's level is locked, and his partner could take all the experience. Having completed his task, the hero decides to leave the testing field. He comes out of the portal, and the system shows his incredible result in first place. The impressed observer offers Itsuki his patronage and a worthy mentor. The hero refuses, saying that he already has a teacher. But the man insists on his own. A muscular man intervenes and asks him to stop before the hero starts to dislike him. The muscular man reassures the hero, saying that he has taken care of the offenders. He reveals that Itsuki is Izumi's student, shocking his interlocutor. The amazed observer cannot believe that Itsuki Tenma is Izumi's student. The hero addresses the muscular man as a teacher, confirming his words. The blue-haired woman praises his performance and offers to heal any wounds. Itsuki replies that there are no wounds, but he is completely exhausted and needs rest. The observer understands the reason for his strength, and Izumi mentions another strong student of hers. The hero explains that the test limit has been increased, and an 8th phase may be added in the future. Izumi suggests observing the other participants, for whom the test is just beginning. One of the participants is defeated, admitting that the nightmare rank is beyond his capabilities. Another participant barely defeats the monster, using up almost all of her magic. The hero notes that the 2 eliminated participants are still very strong and are among the top 10. The observer explains that the participants cannot leave the field, but an exception is made for Itsuki. Izumi notices that another participant has managed to reach the nightmare rank. A participant with rare ritual equipment enters into battle with a purgatory giant. A girl named Shion, a Shikigami user, fights a monster impressively. Her familiar transforms into a huge beast ready to attack. The transformed Shikigami deals a crushing blow to the enemy. The woman is surprised by the Shikigami's transformation and advises the hero to be careful with their users. Itsuki decides that from now on he will put all his experience into his own familiar. He is about to leave, but suddenly something in the arena catches his attention. A new participant in strange red armor named Iberia appears on the field. Iberia boasts that he is wearing the strongest epic equipment from his father. Descriptions of epic dragon gear with ever-increasing stats are now available. Iberia boasts that this equipment has a will of its own and chose him. Itsuki understands that the reservation has a 15-minute limit, after which penalties will follow. Iberia remembers the announcement about the nightmare rank and decides to speed up so as not to let Itsuki down. He charges at the monster, shouting that he and Itsuki are a team. Itsuki watches the battle and notes that Iberia has entered berserk mode. Tournament organizers are discussing that only the top 10 will advance, with 2 receiving special awards. The red-haired participant is confident that he will receive a special reward since he scored the most points. The host announces the top 10, and Itsuki Tenma comes in first place by a huge margin. The participants are shocked by Itsuki's result, because even strong monsters give much fewer points. The red-haired fighter can't believe that he is only 3rd, and has never heard the name Itsuki Tenma. The green-haired warrior is intrigued by Itsuki and wants to fight him. The pink-haired girl is overwhelmed by the huge difference in power and doubts her path. Organizers confirm that Itsuki took first place by an incredible margin over second. The masked character thinks his father will be happy because the new sun of humanity is shining brighter and brighter. Iberia lies in the snow, pleased with the result, and says that he always believed in Itsuki's victory. He is proud that he himself showed a result worthy of his team. Itsuki praises Iberia for his excellent work, which makes him wild with delight. The voice announces the end of the preliminary stage of the 21st National Tournament. Itsuki carries an exhausted Iberia out of the arena after the trial ends. On the southern continent, a gray-haired old man meditates in a majestic temple. One of the warriors complains but is rebuked, explaining that this old man is the Supreme Commander. He is introduced as Valgar, the Supreme Commander of the Southern Continent, who can see the future. The skeptic doubts his abilities, demanding to predict the exact location of the next attack. His companion explains that Valgar only sees fragments of the future, but is still very powerful. Suddenly, Valgar comes to his senses with a scream, confirming the accuracy of his visions. He falls down exhausted, having managed to warn that the northern continent is in great danger. Valgar, in horror, reports an impending large-scale attack by the spirits of disaster. Meanwhile, Itsuki checks his stats and sees that their total has exceeded 1,500. For comparison, it is shown that a normal awakened one gets 50 points per level. Itsuki estimates that his strength is equal to level 30, and his defense and agility can grow infinitely. Passive skills constantly increase his agility and defense. He thinks that mana is also restored, but he has no way to passively increase attack. He is met by friends who have prepared a dinner in honor of his victory. Itsuki walks towards the table, thinking that the super imitation skill might solve the attack problem. At dinner, he happily remarks how long it has been since he ate home-cooked food. Itsuki notices Iberia's absence and asks where he is. The girl with glasses explains that she cured Iberia, but he is sleeping due to complete exhaustion. His friend is amazed that Itsuki single-handedly defeated a nightmare-level enemy while only being level 7. Suddenly, the friend makes a strange sound, and the girl screams in fear, pointing behind him. The friend with glasses turns around and asks what's behind him. A creepy shadow with a red eye demands food, and drool flows from its mouth. It turns out that it was just a hungry comrade, and everyone was sitting at a richly laid table. A man with glasses scolds a blonde man for scaring him and eating in someone else's place. The blonde man leans guiltily over his empty plate. The friend with glasses asks him in confusion if he is angry with him, but the blonde suddenly beams with happiness and shouts with delight that it was very tasty. The man in glasses proudly says that this is all thanks to his cooking. The blonde praises his culinary talent, suggesting that he give up the path of the awakened and become a chef. A mysterious mentor in armor approaches them with a question, since they also want to become saviors. He asks everyone gathered at the table what they fear most. The man in glasses replies that the worst thing for him is the opposite of his dream. He explains that he is afraid of old age, when he will no longer have the strength to travel and will no longer be able to taste food. The very thought of it makes him shudder. Then it's the girl with pink hair's turn, and she says that she was born into a family of doctors. Since childhood, she has seen many people suffering from major and minor illnesses. This became a trauma for her. So now, even a cold or fever causes her great fear. The protagonist remembers how she ran away from him when he just sneezed a little. The mentor reassures her, saying that the awakened live twice as long and rarely get sick. The blonde asks in surprise if it is his turn now. Previously, his biggest fear was failing the selection tests, and now he's afraid that he won't be able to fight alongside Itsuki anymore. He turns to Itsuki and asks about his fears, but he is surprised. Everyone else is also interested, as it's hard for them to imagine what Itsuki might be afraid of. Itsuki begins to explain that after his parents died, he was very worried about how to live on. His body was overwhelmed with helplessness, anger, sadness, and hunger. He remembers crying alone until Saya and Riku appeared in front of him. They offered him something tasty to eat to dispel all his worries. The warmth he received from the two of them pulled him out of his dark world. After that, he met the teacher, Ageha and Iberia. It was as if he had new friends, or his family had grown. He hadn't felt this feeling of security for a long time, and he wished this moment would last forever. More than anything else, he feared having to live alone again. Ageha notices that the atmosphere around darkness has become calm and peaceful. Iberia suddenly hugs Itsuki and screams that she will never leave him. The mentor explains that the savior must under no circumstances allow regrets. He says to remember that the goal of every savior is death without regrets. The teacher tells everyone to finish eating and rest, reminding them of tomorrow's mission. The next morning, the team says goodbye, agreeing to meet at the national tournament. Itsuki asks in surprise when the blonde became so close to Riku. Itsuki says that it's time for them to return, postponing his question to Sai until the main tournament. Ageha suddenly appears and anxiously asks why they are in such a hurry. She reports that she has brought a top-secret report from the southern continent. Ageha clarifies that the report has the highest level of encryption, available only to a few. She allows Itsuki and Iberia to tell everything, trusting them completely. Ageha conveys a prophecy about monsters attacking the northern continent in 3 days. Itsuki has his doubts, but is assured that Elder Balgar's prophecies always come true. Ageha suggests to her father that they leave, since she herself will most likely be the target of the attack. Her father understands that if she stays, she will become the perfect bait for enemies. Ageha refuses to evacuate and declares that she will stay and fight. Itsuki interrupts their argument and gives Darkness a task, but he objects that protecting the teacher is more important. Itsuki orders the protection of Iberia's father, the best craftsman, and promises assistance. Iberia realizes that the teacher is deliberately trying to keep him away from the battlefield. Itsuki asks Ageha to inform the residents about the attack and ensure the safety of the civilians. The old man with burning eyes decides that they will accept the fight here and now, face to face. Ageha reports to her father that the preparations are complete, and he lets her go to rest. Her father sees her worries, and she admits that she wants to lure the boss out herself. Ageha sheepishly admits that her father, as always, sees right through her. Father explains that he sent darkness to certain death in order to unlock his abilities. He adds that the darkness lacks attack, but Aiden has the artifact he needs. If he can obtain this artifact, his attacking power will become perfect. Then a perfect awakened one will be born, possessing all the necessary powers. On the appointed day and hour, stone monuments begin to fall from the sky across the continent. Itsuki and Iberia hurry to their father's house, which is still about 100 kilometers away. Itsuki hurries, fearing that the catastrophic monster could appear at any moment. Iberia suddenly stops and excitedly shouts for Itsuki to look. He points to a falling stone monument in the city, announcing the start of the attack. Itsuki realizes that the evacuation is not complete, and many residents are still in danger. He thinks with anxiety about what will happen if the catastrophic monster appears right now. People scream in panic about the monster, realizing that the prediction came true too early. Iberia is torn between helping the people and the mission, because interference will delay them. Itsuki sees how tired Iberia is, but he remains silent because he is very worried about his father. Iberia offers to help, because without them, too many innocent people will die. Itsuki agrees and changes his plan, deciding to deal with the monster in the city first. A massive level 21 fire golem emerges from the flames. The warriors understand that they will have a very difficult time against a level 25 monster. One of the fighters uses stone shield, calling on his comrades to hold the line. He holds back the attack and shouts to the others to prepare to counterattack. The golem breaks through the defense with a powerful blow, forcing the warriors to retreat. The warrior looks at his broken shield in despair, not believing the power of the monster's attack. The warriors panic and realize they have no chance against the monster and don't know what to do. One of the warriors rushes into the attack, ignoring his comrades' cries to run. The attacking warrior smirks smugly, advising the others to watch themselves. He begs for mercy using a B-rank skill called Water Cannon. Finding a fire monster behind him, he declares himself its natural enemy. His comrades watch from afar, doubting his success and preparing to intervene. He forbids them to interfere, stating that he must finish off the monster alone. The monster suddenly comes to life, engulfed in flames, and looms over the terrified warrior. A huge flame engulfs everything around, and the observers decide that it is all over. Suddenly, a mysterious figure surrounded by black spikes breaks through the fire. The black-haired hero lands and orders his comrade to take charge of the evacuation. He orders Iberia to evacuate the inhabitants, while he blocks the attack with an ice wall. The rescued warriors are amazed by his strength, but he modestly replies that he is not yet a savior. One of the warriors is outraged by the rescue, and the other doubts that an ordinary awakened one can cope. One observer is surprised to suggest that the ice armor on the hero is an artifact. The hero remembers the advice his sensei gave him before leaving. In a flashback, Sensei explains the shortcomings of his powerful black sphere attack. The teacher advises using this ability only as a last resort, as a trump card. He realizes that he cannot use his penetrating sphere in a crowd of people. The evacuated residents watch the hero with delight, assuming that he is of a high level. He decides to fight the fire monster using only brute force. The hero activates the Thunder Destroyer skill, causing a thunder wave. Surrounded by lightning, he delivers a crushing blow straight to the monster's head. The force of the impact sends a powerful shockwave through the city. People are shocked by its power, assuming that the monster was already wounded before it appeared. The fire golem cannot resist the hero's power, causing surprise to the enemy. After a powerful attack, the hero suddenly disappears, leaving behind only smoke. The warriors discuss his incredible speed, admitting that they could not keep up with him. They come to the conclusion that his strength is comparable to level 30, and this is a bad sign. Checking his stats, he realizes he urgently needs to increase his attacking power. Iberia catches up with him, amazed by his speed and pondering the balance of strength and agility. Iberia offers a good way to increase his attack power, which intrigues the hero. She suggests going to her old man's warehouse where there are tools for increasing attack. Iberia laughs as she imagines how powerful Itsuki will become with his new tools. The hero reflects that even by slowing down, he almost left Iberia behind. Seeing Iberia's fatigue, he picks her up, worried about her fighting ability. Ignoring her protests, he picks her up in his arms and continues running. He rushes at incredible speed through the night city, ignoring the cries of Iberia. They finally arrive at a secluded house in the woods late in the evening. Iberia breathes a sigh of relief, complaining that her arms are falling off from the fast road. Iberia asks why her friend lives in the forest, and he replies that the city is too noisy for his work. Iberia warns of traps, and Tenma already senses weak mana, activating its detection. Iberia offers to guide him, but Tenma is confident that he can bypass the traps himself with his skill. Iberia walks forward smugly, glad that it is finally his turn to lead. Suddenly he remembers the trap, and Tenma doubtfully asks if this is really his house. Iberia screams in panic that this is the most dangerous trap, and the mana fluctuations actually intensify. A massive, epic iron golem emerges from the ground, ready to attack. Tenma is amazed to realize that they even have humanoid defensive tools. The golem swings its giant fist to deal a crushing blow to Iberia. Tenma deflects the golem's attack with a lightning-fast kick, saving his companion. Tenma is surprised that the tool's attack is higher than his own, and realizes that he cannot destroy it. He asks Iberia how to stop the enemy, and he advises aiming at the stone on his chest. Iberia shouts that this is a power source, and without it, the golem will not be able to move. After activating Thunder Wave, Tenma decides that everything is now simple, since his speed is higher. Surrounded by lightning, he delivers a precise and powerful blow straight into the mechanism's chest. Tenma uses a series of rapid attacks to overwhelm the golem's defenses and reach the core. He manages to snatch away the glowing green stone that was the source of the golem's power. Tenma holds the cannonball in his hand, and his shadow grows ominously on the wall behind him. Iberia screams in horror at Yusuke-san to stop immediately. Suddenly, Tenma receives a strong blow from the side from an unexpectedly appearing enemy. The armored stranger pins Tenma to the ground with his sword, surprised by his appearance. A warrior named Bokuto Yusuke tells Iberia that he mistook his companion for a simple bandit. Tenma doesn't understand who it is and why he didn't feel the fluctuations of his mana at all. Iberia introduces Tenma as a friend, who asks where his father is. Yusuke points to the master behind them and advises Iberia to be careful. A gray-haired old man appears, and it is clear from his face that he is in a very bad mood. Iberia happily runs up to her father with the news that he has successfully passed the selection. He boasts that he took 4th place and now, by agreement, can choose his instrument. His father slaps him, and Iberia, shocked, asks why he was hit. The angry old man shouts at his son to hand over the dragon equipment, accusing him of stealing it. The son justifies himself by saying that he only borrowed the tool, but the father threatens irreversible consequences. Iberia offendedly promises not to touch his things anymore and leaves, throwing her bag on the ground. The old man turns to Tenma and asks if he is Izumi Nento's 2nd student. Tenma confirms that his teacher ordered him to accompany Aiden because of a prophecy of disaster. Aiden wonders why his master, who rarely takes on students, chose such an ordinary youth. Suddenly he notices something strange and shouts in amazement that Tenma's level has been fixed. A status window appears, showing Tenma Itsuki's locked level at 0. Aiden suggests that Tenma is using the artifact to fake his stats, but Tenma denies it. Seeing the dark object, Aiden understands why Nento Izumi requested it. Aiden calls the master calculating, but Tenma says he was only asked to act as a guard without compensation. Aiden explains that the master asked him to protect the student in exchange for a special karmic artifact. Aiden was simply curious why the craftsman chose a defective item for exchange. Originally, it was a masterpiece, the Critical Strike Crystal, which gave a nearly 100% chance to crit. But during its creation, a fatal crack suddenly appeared in the perfect crystal. Due to the crack, the artifact's rank became unknown and its effects changed dramatically. Aiden says that the artifact is useless for ordinary people, but after seeing Tenma's characteristics, he understood everything. The master realized that since Tenma never levels up, this artifact was perfect for him. By defeating Beasts of Calamity, Tenma will be able to gradually increase his critical hit rate to 100%. In the future, each of his attacks will be strengthened tenfold, which opens up incredible possibilities. Tenma realizes that his critical strike chance only increases when defeating stronger enemies. Tenma thanks Aiden, as this artifact will help him compensate for his low attack power. Aiden ponders how the animals found his hideout and notices a fiery projectile in the sky. A sudden attack takes one of Aiden's men by surprise in the forest. Iberia screams in horror, not understanding what just happened. A huge green barrier appears over the forest, cutting everyone off from the outside world. Aiden frowned, as only the commanders-in-chief of the 5 continents knew of his location. One of the students shouts that the beasts of disaster are already approaching them. Tenma feels something rushing towards them at incredible speed. A one-horned demon of the 14th level from the Horned Demon tribe appears before him. The demon launches a powerful blow, but Tenma blocks it with ease. Activating the black ice wall, he pierces the monster through and through. A whole crowd of the same demons immediately pounces on him. Tenma is confident that against enemies of this level, he could instantly finish them all off with Lotus Burst. He thinks that Zesuke might be able to withstand the impact of his attack, but others might get hurt. Aiden and Iberia are hiding in the barn right behind him, and he doesn't want to take any chances. If he uses the blast thoughtlessly, he could catch them in the blast wave. After destroying the monsters, he comes to the conclusion that a single-player game suits him better. Suddenly, he feels another surge of mana, much stronger than all the previous ones. A level 24 two-horned guardian beast appears. In the demon world, it is reported that the first wave of vanguard of lowly slaves has been successfully teleported. The demon lord decides which of the 8 rings will be entrusted with the leadership of the main forces. One of the demons says that he has noticed an important person in the human world, and that he needs to be captured. Emiraku, one of the 8 demon kings, is hesitant to entrust this task to someone of his rank. The overlord decides that he will hand over this matter to the demonic general, and Emiraku obeys. In addition, command of the main group will be entrusted to Enshome. Enshokuma, another of the 8 kings, had not eaten people for a long time and was probably starving. Tenma hears Iberia's scream and fears that the beast of disaster has entered her room. The two-horned guardian of the 24th level appears before him again. Realizing the danger, Tenma decides he has no choice but to use it. He uses dark energy to protect himself from the demon's crushing blow. Tenma decides to defeat this powerful enemy to increase his chance of a critical hit. The purifying sphere suddenly activates, creating a purple rift in the sky. His critical hit chance increases, and he notes that the monster has really grown. Desk yells at Tenma to leave this beast to him while he deals with the other one. The wounded blonde lies on the ground, lamenting that he cannot win without dragon equipment. The monster looms over him, and in desperation he calls for Itsuki's help. Suddenly, an old man appears with a huge hammer and blocks the beast's attack. The blonde is surprised that his non-combat class old man is not afraid of the beast, and he only calls the monster stubborn. The old man throws the beast away, saying that he leaves the rest to another. Tenma stops the monster's clawed paw by activating Black Ice Wall. He pierces the beast's shoulder with a sharp blade created from his hand. Tenma apologizes to the old man for being late, explaining that he was dealing with the patrols. The old man no longer senses the mana fluctuations and suspects that Tenma has destroyed all the beasts. Outside, they see a field of monster corpses and realize that Tenma did this alone. Desk warns that it's too early to relax, because the animals will emerge from the barrier and become stronger. He is about to destroy the barrier, killing monsters along the way, and asks to cover his rear. Tenma objects that he will kill all the animals himself, but they ask him to stay and protect the others. The old man looks into Tenma's eyes and sees no fear in them, only an overwhelming thirst for battle. The old man makes a decision and entrusts the destruction of the barrier to Tenma. Desk is hesitant, as there are high-level monsters in the green barrier, but Tenma is confident in his abilities. Aiden also wants to go with Tenma, but the old man firmly tells him that he is not going. The old man reproaches him, saying that he and Tenma live in different worlds and cannot be a team. Aiden counters that the team must support each other and cover for weaknesses. The old man shouts that Aiden does not support Tenma, but is only a burden to him. He states that Aiden will ultimately simply destroy Tenma, leaving the young man in shock. The old man explains that Tenma is special, and no one from his generation can stand on the same stage with him. He asks Aiden if he ever saw Tenma's gaze during the fight with the beast of disaster. Tenma rushes forward, spotting 5 enemies, and realizes that doing so will fully restore his mana. He faces off against a group of massive armored disaster beasts alone. Surrounded by lightning, he creates a sphere of fire and shouts at the monsters to get out of his way. He activates Lotus Burst, destroying 5 enemies and increasing his critical strike chance. The explosion consumed almost all of his mana, but he won't let anyone reach Iberia and the others. Seeing an explosion in the distance, Desk realizes it is Tenma's skill as he clashes with the beasts. Desk is shocked by the force of the explosion, and speculates that the reason Tenma's level is 0 is due to his gift. Tenma reaches the green barrier and realizes that the beasts inside are much stronger than the previous ones. His mana detection is blocked, and he cannot determine the number or strength of enemies. He remembers that the color of the barrier indicates the level of the monsters, and green means levels 26 to 50. He sees the gradation of colors and confirms that the green barrier hides beasts up to level 50. Tenma looks at the symbol in his hand, anticipating the huge amount of experience for killing all the monsters. He summons his Shikigami, Death Hound, in preparation for the upcoming battle. The system displays the stats of the summoned B-rank Death Hound. Tenma promises to give all future experience to his loyal Shikigami. He orders the dog not to touch the enemies until his signal. Elsewhere, guards report the arrival of reinforcements over the body of a dead man. First-class savior Kei Chirijima vows to protect Lady Izumi. Izumi thanks him and asks if Akira Heaton has arrived. She is worried because Heaton has not been in touch for several hours. Her father suggests that the special-class savior has encountered a problem. He insists on communication, because only such a hero can defeat the local beasts. Kei doubts the strength of special-class heroes, believing them to be ordinary people. He is confident that the difference in strength between him and the special-class saviors is not that great. The head of the clan reproaches him for excessive self-confidence and pride. He explains that Kei has simply never met a truly strong beast. Suddenly, a Steely appears and Kei screams in panic about the approaching beast of disaster. The clan leader ominously welcomes the monster's arrival, but Izumi can't get through. Kei urges not to worry and promises to destroy all enemies himself. He is eager to prove that a first-class savior is in no way inferior to a special one. Meanwhile, Tenma finds himself inside a green barrier, where the scenery has not changed. Sensing an unsettling aura, he activates mana detection. Tenma realizes that the inner and outer spaces of the barrier are separated. Mana detection reveals 5 enemy targets and gives him a rough idea of their locations. He orders the dog to stay and eat any animal that tries to escape. After praising his pet, Tenma activates Thunderwave and prepares for battle. 2 huge purple beasts rush rapidly through the forest. He creates a wall of black ice, slamming one of the monsters into it. A powerful bolt of lightning strikes and knocks back the second beast. His chain lightning attack hits multiple enemies at once. Tenma activates Piercing Sphere, creating a ball of dark energy. The system reports an increase in critical strike chance. He reflects that his critical hit chance has increased again. As he approaches his destination, he sees the Steely so close for the first time. He decides that one blow will be enough to destroy the Steely and the barrier. Suddenly, he realizes that there is one more, last enemy left. Surrounded by lightning, he prepares for the final attack. Sharp black tentacles emerge from the ground, attacking him. He barely dodges, realizing that he would have been pierced if not for his vigilance. Tenma realizes that the enemy has been hiding behind the Steely this whole time. He understands that this beast of disaster is of a completely different type. Elsewhere, Sasuke tells Itsuki to wait inside while he blames himself for his death. Sasuke tries to calm the boy down, but he feels like a useless burden. Sasuke doubts Itsuki's powers, and Itsuki admits his complete lack of confidence. Sasuke encourages the boy, remembering that at his age he was also afraid of such tests. Itsuki is surprised, and Sasuke explains that the difference between the barriers is not only in the monster's levels. He says that the animals in the gray barriers are mindless and act instinctively. Sasuke continues that in the green barrier, as among people, there are intelligent beings. Suddenly, a sentient disaster beast, a level 34 square general, appears. The protagonist realizes that the animals in this barrier are completely different from their previous enemies. Sasuke explains to Itsuki that the reason for his helplessness is not weakness, but Tenma's incredible strength. Tenma trembled with anticipation, finally meeting the intelligent beast that had been rumored. The monster mockingly asks if the man is begging for mercy. The beast calls him a level 0 coward who trembles at the mere sight of him. Tenma grins maliciously, saying that he is just excited and wants to ask the monster a question. The monster arrogantly agrees to fulfill his last wish. With his eyes blazing, Tenma asks the beast if it is capable of feeling pain. The beast laughs at his insolence, not believing that a pathetic man could harm him. The monster attacks, proclaiming itself the one who inflicts agony. The swift attack hits its target and the monster grabs Tenma. A blow of monstrous force falls upon Tenma, leaving a trail of destruction. Tenma realizes that his attack didn't work, and the beast's mana is only growing. He notices that the enemy's tentacles have also begun to move faster. However, Tenma is confident that the advantage in speed is still on his side. He lacks raw power, and his attacks do barely any damage. The monster is surprised by his speed and asks what his real level is. However, the beast decides that this does not matter and simply calls him a fast insect. He boasts that he can withstand hundreds of his attacks, but one counterattack will be fatal for Tenma. Tenma blocks the blow with his hand, his face showing complete concentration. The force of the impact throws him back and he crashes into a tree. He withstands the onslaught, his feet firmly planted on the ground. Leaping away from the broken tree, he challenges the monster to give it its all. The beast assumes that the electricity around Tenma is simply a skill to increase speed. Tenma realizes that the tentacles are part of the monster's body, not a skill, so his ability doesn't work. Having received another blow, he tries to count how many times he has already been attacked. His mana is almost depleted due to frequent skill use. His stamina is waning, and he decides to put all his remaining strength into attacking. He decides to increase the frequency of his attacks, hoping to land one critical hit and win. Tenma unleashes a flurry of rapid strikes on the beast. To deal critical damage, he must continue to hit even faster and harder. His series of blows relentlessly digs into the monster's chest. The monster stands motionless, calling Tenma's reckless attacks stupid. The beast mockingly asks why Tenma doesn't hurt him, but he only chuckled in response. The monster is surprised that Tenma is still alive and notes his unexpectedly high defense. Tenma activates the ability, and the system guarantees a 100% critical hit chance. It delivers a crushing critical strike straight into the monster's belly. The defeated beast, shocked, asks where Tenma got such terrifying power from. Tenma admits that the force of the blow exceeded his expectations, awakening strange emotions within him. He experiences a previously unknown pleasure and satisfaction from battle. Blood is pouring from the wound in his stomach, but he feels no pain at all. Instead of pain, he feels incredible pleasure and a surge of strength. He asks the beast about pain, and it accuses him of hiding his true level. The frightened monster doesn't understand what Tenma is going to do to him. Tenma notes that the other beasts were foolish, but this one is screaming in genuine pain. With a cruel smile, he admits that hearing the cry of pain of an intelligent beast is a beautiful sound. In horror, the beast realizes that Tenma will crush his head and calls him a demon. He brutally kills a monster, and the system reports an increase in critical hit chance. The fight is over, and his overall critical strike chance is now 4%. When the danger passed, the euphoria gave way to severe pain from the wounds received. He sees that the barrier has become transparent, meaning that all the calamity beasts inside are dead. Now, to complete the task, all he had to do was destroy the stele. With one blow, he shatters the stele, which turns out to be more fragile than he thought. Before returning to Iberia, he decides to check something. He calls out to his Shikigami, wanting to look at him. The wolf that appears larger than before, which surprises Tenma. He checks the dog's status and sees that his level has jumped by 3 at once. Tenma realizes that his pet's body grows as it levels up. He eagerly imagines the gigantic size the wolf will reach in the future. The night sky shows a crescent moon, and the timer shows that the first day of the prophecy is coming to an end. Outside, Iberia and her companion see the barrier disappear and realize Itsuki has succeeded. His companion is amazed at the speed with which the barrier was destroyed and acknowledges Itsuki's strength. Completely exhausted from the battle and blood loss, Tenma collapses onto his wolf. He orders his dog Death to lead him to Iberia, following the trail of mana. Suddenly, the man hears the cry of an animal and does not understand where it could have come from. Sensing danger, he orders Iberia to return to her room immediately. Iberia recognizes the cry, but cannot remember where she heard it. The sound gets closer, and the man prepares to fight the unknown beast of disaster. Seeing a wolf rushing towards him, He decides to attack immediately. Iberia panics and recognizes the beast as the Shikigami Itsuki recently tamed. He tries to hit the wolf with his sword, but the wolf is too fast and dodges. The man is confused, as the wolf's strength and skills are not those of a normal Shikigami. Iberia runs up to Itsuki, and her companion admits that he remains a mystery to him. Horrified by his wounds, Iberia asks what happened, and he only weakly pronounces her name. Itsuki asks to let him rest, and Iberia screams in panic, not knowing what to do. The companion comforts the crying Iberia, saying that their friend is not dead yet. Iberia, with tears in her eyes, hopefully asks again if Itsuki is alive. The man points to the wounded man and confirms that he is still breathing normally. Iberia lifts the wounded man, saying that urgent treatment is needed. Iberia decides that even though he is weaker than Itsuki, there are things that only he can do. He remembers that his class, Wind Elementalist, is versatile in both attack and support. His gift, Healing Focus, reduces wind damage but increases healing skills. He is willing to use his low-level gift for his friends as many times as needed. Iberia activates a C-rank skill called Healing Wind. He directs green energy at Itsuki, begging him to get better soon. The prophecy states that the purple barrier will expand at Nento Izumi's residence. There is a fallen warrior lying on the ground, and someone is shouting out the name Chirijima. The wounded girl asks to run while they try to treat her and keep her conscious. Her companion looks at the monster in horror, realizing that humanity has no chance. A sign with the name of the monster appears. It is a level 14, 81 bull warrior. The blue-haired man begs Izumi to run before it's too late. The bull warrior recognizes the armored warrior as Nento Izumi by his strange attire. The monster is glad that he found his target right away and won't have to bother Mr. Ensakuma. The girl screams for her father, and he, in despair, realizes that it's all over. Nento Izumi, bleeding, tells the rescuer who arrived that he was too late. Akira appears with glowing red eyes, ready to fight. Akira asks for forgiveness and tells the others to leave this enemy to him. The bull warrior is surprised by his appearance, and the wounded man warns that the monster is very strong. Akira delivers a crushing blow, piercing the body of the massive bull warrior. The observers are amazed, wondering if this is the power of a special class savior. They come to the conclusion that he is no longer a man, but a monster with incredible power. The girl is glad that they survived the crisis, but Akira says that the battle is just beginning. A new prophecy states that the purple barrier at the residence has changed to red. Inside the red barrier, someone is pondering how Mr. Ensakuma will play with people. The 37th level Scarlet Flame Demon King would like to stay and watch. He approaches the 49th level White Oni, asking for his consent. The Demon King orders them not to do anything unnecessary, because their mission is to capture a human. The demon general explains that the three of them were sent to another barrier so as not to stand out. The red barrier created by Ensakuma attracts strong people as a distraction. The demons decide to move towards their goal while Ensakuma distracts them. The general is confident that Lord Linga will guide them through the magic eye in the human world. He explains that Linga sees the coordinates of the eye and everything that he sees. The general says that the magic eye is located in the same place as their target. The prophecy shows the same time when Itsuki is lying unconscious in bed. "Mom, I finally found a distressed beast that feels pain just like us. I crushed his skull, so your death was not in vain." The mother calmly asks her son Itsuki to stop. She says there are things more important than revenge, but he asks if they are more important than exterminating all the animals. "You should not use your power for revenge, but to protect those you love." Itsuki shouts in rage that he will never forgive the calamity beasts who killed his parents. With eyes burning with hatred, he swears that he will make sure that each of them is dead. His mother, beginning to fade, says it's time for her to go. He asks in despair where she is going, because he still has so much to tell her. As she disappears, she asks Itsuki not to let hatred consume him. Itsuki reaches out to her and calls out after her as she finally dissolves into the light. An ominous voice mocks him, calling shedding tears for the dead typical of insignificance. The demon of destruction, Ling, appears and says that Itsuki only takes on the form of a child when around this woman. The grown-up Itsuki rushes at the demon in a rage, screaming that he will kill him. Linga easily throws him aside, promising to soon give him another taste of despair. The hero freezes in agony, experiencing true despair that the demon sends upon him. As he breaks into pieces, he screams that he will kill Ling no matter what it costs him. Itsuki wakes up in bed and realizes that it was all just a dream. He clutches his head and wonders why his uninjured eyes hurt so much. He finds that his fatal wounds have healed and surmises that Iberia used Kodama's bandages. The huge wolf watches him, thinking it best to make sure death doesn't wake him up. The wolf lunges at him with a growl, and Itsuki whispers the word "no" in horror. The awakened blonde pushes the wolf away, shouting that he must protect Itsuki from the calamitous beast. Itsuki thinks that such a light breeze wouldn't even make a real calamity beast flinch. The blonde shouts joyfully that Itsuki has finally woken up. He hugs Itsuki, glad that the treatment worked, and Itsuki asks how long he was unconscious. Iberia replies that 3 hours have passed, and Itsuki asks if Joshuke and Aiden are okay. The blonde man reports with a smile that not a single calamitous animal has appeared since then. Itsuki remembers Linga's words from the dream and suspects that the animals are up to something. As per the prophecy, Itsuki regains consciousness, thinking that he cannot let his guard down. Iberia is glad to see that he is fully recovered and is already dressed. Itsuki decides to check on Zasuke's situation first while they wait for reinforcements. On the street, Iberia asks what his Shikigami dog's name is, assuming it's simply Death Dog. Iberia offers to come up with a name for the Shikigami, but Itsuki replies that he is not a Shikigami user. Iberia is upset, and Itsuki thinks that he would never have let him name that thing. Iberia realizes that bandages alone would not be enough, and he appears to have used his healing ability. Itsuki is surprised by his healing skills, and Iberia admits that his offensive skills do almost no damage. At the campfire, Itsuki asks Joshuke if rescuers arrived while he was unconscious. Jisuke says that the teacher sent rescuers and they should be on their way. Itsuki senses something ominous as he notices an ominous darkness approaching in the forest. Kobayashi asks how much longer it is to their destination, and is told that it is only a few kilometers left. He doubts that the great crafter lives so deep in the forest, but his comrade reminds him of his imminent promotion. Suddenly, a girl with pink hair appears and yells at them to stop. The girl warns that someone is approaching ahead, and her companion asks if she felt anything. An ominous figure appears in the darkness and says that they have noticed her after all. The guy with the tail recognizes the beast of disaster and orders his team to prepare for battle. A fire demon appears with a huge monster and asks where they are going in such a hurry. The fire demon, with a sinister grin, asks if they are heading to the same place as him. He is surprised that one fireball could do so much harm to fragile people. The fire demon turns to his companion, the White Oni, and asks if he is finished. White reports that he flattened people and remarks on how cruel his partner is. The surviving girl is confused about where the monsters came from, since there is no barrier nearby. The fire demon replies with a grin that they had to travel a long way to get here. Suddenly, a mysterious figure in dark armor appears and orders not to kill. The dark figure threatens that if the order is ignored again, the consequences will not be so mild. A fire demon covered in ice asks for the spell to be dispelled, otherwise his body will suffer. The ice melts, and the fire demon, engulfed in flames once again, admits that he thought he would freeze to death. He clarifies whether it is forbidden to kill only the target and the owner of the magical eye, and asks about the girl's strength. The dark figure replies that no, but he wants to test a new ability from Mr. Ling. He attacks the girl with dark energy and she screams in pain. The fire demon thinks she has died, but his companion explains that the girl is being demonized. He explains that the demonized people are subordinate to Lord Ling, and now this woman is on their side. The girl kneels before the King of Evil and awaits his orders. The King of Evil orders her to hide her identity in human society until Lord Ling arrives. He tells her to report that the team was attacked by beasts of calamity, and that only she survived, having sacrificed her comrades. The King of Evil, having made sure that she understood everything, lets her go. The demonized girl runs off into the forest with a determined look to carry out the order. The fire demon doubts the benefit of recruiting such a weak ally. The King of Evil says that tens of thousands of people have already been demonized, including awakened ones. He explains that they will play a key role when Lord Linga unites this world. The King of Evil calls on them to stop hesitating and follow him, because their mission is very important. The scene changes to show a golden golem and an inscription about the second day of the prophecy. The two men discuss how the iron golem's characteristics will help compensate for the labor shortage. One of them asks where Tenma is, and the other replies that he went to the workshop. Tenma in the workshop asks the old man about the critical crystal and his critical hit chance. Tenma says his critical hit chance increased from 3 to 4% after defeating the creature. The old blacksmith notes that Tenma was lucky to pull off such a feat, given the 3% chance. Tenma says that after the critical hit, he entered a strange state of omnipotence and asks if it is the effect of the crystal. Kuznets describes the feeling when your senses are heightened, but you remain completely calm. Tenma thoughtfully confirms that he experienced exactly that feeling. The blacksmith says in surprise that Tenma has entered a state of flow, but he doesn't understand what he's talking about. The old man explains that the state of flow is a state of complete concentration in which the sense of time is distorted. Tenma still doesn't understand, and the blacksmith explains that it simply means being in the zone. He gives the example of an artist or athlete who is completely absorbed in their work. Even a student who is enthusiastically solving a problem can enter this state. When the awakened one enters the flow, his senses become extremely acute. At the same time, all of his characteristics and skills increase to 120% of the original ones. Tenma is amazed, as he has never heard of such a thing. And the blacksmith adds that only a few are capable of this. This requires skill, a clear mind, and a lot of luck. Otherwise, it is impossible to enter the flow. The blacksmith calls this the boundary between a genius and an ordinary person, which even Vadzin cannot cross at will. The blacksmith himself first entered the flow state only 2 years after awakening. He notes that 2 years is very early, but Tenma was able to do it in just a month. The blacksmith tries to reach Tenma, but he suddenly freezes, listening to something. Tenma senses the approach of 3 creatures with enormous mana and thinks that they are his guards. However, he understands that this rough wave is more like the mana of a calamity beast. Deciding to check just in case, he quickly runs out of the forge. He remembers that he destroyed all the beasts inside the barrier and hopes that it is just his imagination. Outside, he is met by 2 security guards who ask him in surprise why he is so tense. Tenma replies that he felt a surge of mana and thought of the beast of calamity appearing. The guard reassures him, saying there are no barriers here. But just in case, he activated the iron golem. Suddenly, there is a deafening blow, and the blonde turns around in horror. The iron golem is shattered into pieces with one powerful blow. His partner is in shock because the golem was destroyed before he could react. 3 powerful enemies appear, named the Demon King, the Evil King, and the White One. The second day of the prophecy arrives, and an ominous silhouette appears in the sky. Tenma realizes that these opponents are on a completely different level than the ones at the barrier. He is especially frightened by their leader, whose overwhelming mana is unlike anything he has seen before. The leader orders his companions to deal with the rest, while he himself goes after the target. He adds an order not to damage the magic eye under any circumstances. His 2 subordinates casually agree, asking him not to worry. The fire and fanged monsters are talking to each other in a relaxed manner. Tenma is horrified to realize that the monster's target is Aiden, and that these beasts are able to communicate. One of the guards shouts that he will not let the monster pass and rushes to intercept. 2 guards boldly rush to attack the Dark Leader. He vows to stop the enemy at any cost and not let him get to Aiden. Suddenly, a huge wall of ice appears in front of him, blocking his path. Trying to break through it, the guard is amazed by the incredible density of the ice. Suddenly, the blonde man shouts at Sesuke to watch out because another monster is attacking from behind. The white monster raises his huge fist to strike the distracted warrior. Meanwhile, a fire demon appears before Tenma and tells him that it is not time for him to worry about others. The fire demon attacks Tenma using an A-rank skill called Red Flame Bullet. Tenma yells at Iberia to get out and activates Black Ice Wall to defend herself. Iberia watches in horror as the fiery attack smashes into the ice barrier. The system detects the enemy's skill and begins its analysis, which progresses very slowly. Tenma realizes he could have dodged it, but he decided to take the hit to protect the ice wall. The demon taunts Tenma, doubting that a thin film of ice will stop his flames. Suddenly, the demon wonders if he has overdone it, since his opponent might be the Magic Eye. The system identifies Tenma as a level 0 human with burnt hands. Seeing the 0 level, the demon decides that Tenma cannot be a threat and can be easily killed. Despite his wounds, Tenma uses his skill and summons Death Dog. The demon asks in surprise if Tenma is really going to fight 2 against 1. He arrogantly declares that even with 10 such assistants, Tenma has no chance. Tenma orders the dog to protect Aiden and rushes forward himself. The demon attacks in a rage, but is surprised when Tenma manages to dodge the blast. The Death Hound rushes towards its target, forcing the demon to follow its maneuver. The enemy asks Tenma condescendingly if he really thinks he can defeat him alone. Tenma realizes that the enemy is looking down on him, and this gives him time to analyze. He's not going to just stall for time, cowardly hiding in the face of danger. Surrounded by lightning, Tenma smirks and tells the demon that he himself looks rather pathetic. The demon is enraged by the insolence of a person he considers insignificant. He decides to stop the game and promises to turn the impudent fellow into ashes right now. Tenma dodges, noting that the attack has become larger but not faster. He realizes that the enemy relies on ranged combat skills and decides to close the distance. The demon is amazed by the incredible speed with which Tenma instantly closed the distance. Tenma delivers a powerful kick, shrouded in blue lightning, straight at the demon. The demon blocks the blow and asks if Tenma thought he didn't know his weaknesses. In response, he delivers a devastating fire strike at close range. Tenma is sent flying to the ground with a huge hole in his chest from the fire attack. Lying on the ground, he reproaches himself for his carelessness in a fight with an intelligent opponent. The demon understands that he was deceived, because a person with such speed cannot be level 0. He smirks as he asks the heavily wounded Tenma if he still wants to fight. The demon threateningly says that it would be easier for Tenma to die if he just stayed lying down. Tenma stands up, explaining that analyzing an A-rank skill is taking too long. Elsewhere, someone praises a talented craftsman for creating unique artifacts. The craftsman asks if he will be killed, but receives the answer that he is still useful. However, the master states that he is not one of those who likes to follow other people's orders. In a rage, he draws a sharp dagger, preparing to fight back. Suddenly, his body begins to become covered in ice crystals. He realizes in horror that he was instantly frozen in ice by a skill of at least A rank. A dark figure orders him to surrender, as his life is now in someone else's hands. The son panics and thinks about how to save his father from kidnapping, and whether he should attack. Suddenly, a huge black Shikigami wolf attacks the dark figure. A ferocious beast with red eyes rushes at the enemy in a furious attack. The mighty Shikigami is instantly frozen by sharp ice spikes. The kidnapper is surprised by the Shikigami's appearance, and his captive sees him as reinforcement. The young man falls into despair, because even such a strong spirit could not do anything. He understands that there is no chance, but still decides to go after Itsuki, who summoned the Shikigami. He remembers the old man's stern warning that he would destroy Tenma. He suddenly realizes that Itsuki was seriously injured even before they met. Realizing that he would only put Itsuki in danger, he decides to save his father himself. An idea strikes him. He remembers the dragon equipment and runs after it. With determination in his eyes, he mentally asks his father to hold on a little longer. The kidnapper calls the escaped youth a coward and prepares to leave with the captive. He plans to take the prisoner to his destination, leaving the cleanup to his partners. Suddenly, a new enemy appears, engulfed in flames and using a fire bullet. An injured Itsuki activates a black ice wall to cover his burned leg. He tries to defend himself with a thunder wave, but is covered by a fiery whirlwind. The fiery enemy mocks his persistence and noticeable slowness. The enemy angrily asks how long he can dodge his attacks. Itsuki notices that this time his enemy is going to attack with both hands. The fire demon fires a barrage of high-speed fire projectiles at him. Itsuki finds himself in the center of a hail of fire that is impossible to dodge. He understands that in a normal state he would have dodged, but now it is impossible. The first fire bullets reach the target, and the system shows the progress of the analysis. He continues to take hit after hit as the skill analysis continues. Analysis progress is rapidly increasing under a hail of enemy fire attacks. A powerful explosion throws him back, and the analysis is almost complete. An even greater flame engulfs him, reminding him of some event from the past. The enemy screams at him to die and fires a powerful, penetrating fire bullet. Itsuki withstands the attack with his shield, and the analysis is completed at 100%. The penetrating projectile explodes upon impact with his blue energy barrier. The fiery enemy looks at the result of his attack in bewilderment and shock. The analysis is complete, and he gains the 3rd level of the Black Ice Wall skill. His stats increase by 50 points, and all wounds are completely healed. He realizes that he has become much stronger, and now can no longer be afraid of fire attacks. The enemy is shocked that his attack did not work, but is confident that the defense will not hold for long. A huge, glowing blue lotus blooms on the ground beneath Itsuki's feet. Grinning, the fiery adversary declares that the games are over, and it is time to finish everything. The enemy is shocked to see that Itsuki's body, torn to shreds, has been completely restored. Itsuki calmly says that he was going to save Aiden first and then deal with him. Itsuki states that the enemy's flames made him change his mind. With eyes burning with rage, he shouts that he will destroy his opponent first. The warrior is thrown back by a powerful blow, and he thinks that the enemy is incredibly strong. He understands that he would have definitely died if he had not blocked the blow with the artifact. When he lands, he is surprised to realize how far he has been thrown. He decides that he must return quickly, because these monsters are not ordinary. To his horror, one of the monsters followed him. He thinks that this is for the best, because it will make things much easier for Tenma. He decides to quickly deal with the monster in order to go to the aid of the master and Ibria. Meanwhile, another character searches the room for something, hoping that his comrades will hold out. The blonde finds a hiding place under the furniture and reaches out to it. He happily takes out the dragon equipment, believing that he will now be able to fight. The box contains an epic set of armor that provides a huge boost to strength and agility. Donning his armor, Itsuki orders himself to focus on the enemy. He remembers his father's warning about the terrible side effects of wearing armor for long periods of time. He vows to save his father in 15 minutes and rushes forward with increased strength. Someone invisible asks the hooded villain if he's relaxed too much. The villain replies that the only threat to him is the special class savior. He is confident in his safety, because all the saviors are now busy with the Ring of Demons. The frozen old man tries to talk to the enemy, asking if he is his only target. The villain confirms that they have other tasks, and the old man realizes that he was right. Suddenly, the villain irritably notices how persistent his pursuers are. The old man hopes for salvation, but immediately worries that the loners have no chance. Itsuki appears in dragon armor and furiously screams for the villain to bring his father back. The villain is surprised that some human youth dared to chase after the Shikigami. Meanwhile, Tenma confronts the fire demon against the backdrop of an ice wall. The fire demon couldn't believe it, because his opponent's body was completely charred. He asks Tenma in amazement how he managed to recover so quickly. The demon decides that regeneration will not help, and envelops himself in flames again. He unleashes a hail of fire projectiles on Tenma using rapid fire. Tenma activates the Black Ice Wall skill to protect himself from the fire bullets. The demon mocks Tenma's stupidity in choosing to take the blow head-on. Tenma calmly states that flames of that level no longer affect him. He activates Thunder Wave and says that now the demon is like a fish on a board. The demon is terrified by Tenma's increased speed, but still hopes for his barrier. Tenma rushes at the enemy with fury, promising to rip off all his skin. He turns into a black projectile and rushes towards the demon at great speed. The demon thinks confidently about his barrier, but it begins to crack from the impact. With a powerful kick, Tenma shatters the fire barrier. His face contorted with rage, he breaks through the remains of the flames. Tenma, with a mad grin, rushes at the fire demon, promising to cook him. The demon, horrified, realizes that he must flee. Otherwise, certain death awaits him. In a panic, he shouts out his opponent's name, calling him the Frost Malice King. Completely defeated, the monster desperately and helplessly calls for help. He cannot believe that such a powerful being would be killed by a mere man. Tenma absorbs the remaining power of a defeated enemy. The demon recalls how he greatly underestimated the level 0 enemy. Thanks to the broken crystal, Tenma's next attack is guaranteed to be a critical hit. Feeling the blow, the enemy realizes in horror that Tenma himself is a real demon. Surrounded by a bloody aura, Tenma unleashes his full power. He is disappointed that the critical hit worked so early, as he wanted to prolong the suffering. Tenma realizes that after the critical hit, He has entered the flow state again. He suggests that dealing critical damage is the trigger for this condition. The system window shows its incredibly increased characteristics. He sees a green sphere and realizes that it is the karma of the fallen beast of calamity. Before his eyes, green energy leaves the body of the dead monster and flies away. Tenma notices Karma heading into the forest and assumes she is looking for Josuke. He is surprised why the sphere of karma remained intact, although it should have been divided. Fearing for Aiden's life, Tenma decides to act immediately and rushes forward. Meanwhile, Aiden, in red armor, unsuccessfully attacks a huge ice knight. He is in despair, because his powerful blow and dragon equipment does not penetrate the defense. Aiden decides not to give up and continue to hit the enemy until his defense breaks. The Ice Knight taunts him by holding an old man named Iberia captive in ice. The old man shouts at Aiden to take off the cursed dragon gear immediately. The voice of Iberia promises to save her father, even if he renounces her. Aiden thinks that his brother Asuki would have done the same thing in his place. The Ice Knight speaks disdainfully of family love, calling people sentimental. Declaring that he has no more time, the knight prepares to finish them off. He unleashes a crushing wave of ice shards on Aiden. A huge wolf suddenly appears, takes the blow and flies to the side. The wolf finds himself completely frozen in a large block of ice. Soon the ice cracks and the familiar gains a new level. With a furious roar, Tenma's wolf is completely freed from the icy captivity. A wolf named Death returns to his master. Tenma guesses that Death absorbed the beast's karma and therefore increased his level. He asks his familiar what happened to Aiden and the beast of calamity. Tenma sees a huge crater filled with ice and doesn't understand what happened there. He senses a powerful surge of dark mana emanating from the center of the destruction. Realizing he can't wait any longer, Tenma wraps himself in lightning again. A powerful blast of red energy cuts through the air and hits the target. Tenma strikes at a huge monster with a long tongue. He sees with horror that the wound on the monster's body instantly heals. The hero realizes that a beast with rapid regeneration is his worst enemy. Itsuki senses the karma sphere and decides that he can't fall behind either. Tenma notices that the monster constantly uses its hands to protect its head and the back of its neck. The monster instinctively crosses its arms to block another attack. He is finally convinced that he has found his enemy's weak spot. Now, knowing the enemy's vulnerability, he is absolutely confident of his victory. The warrior launches a new attack, aiming for the vulnerable spot. The first thing he decides to do is cut off both of the monster's arms to deprive him of his defenses. He expects that it will take the enemy at least 1 second to regenerate. In this short moment, the beast's weak spot remains completely exposed. Without wasting any time, he delivers a crushing blow with his sword to the monster's neck. A powerful burst of red energy tears the monster apart. Itsuki looks with annoyance at the defeated beast that caused him so much trouble. Having defeated the enemy, he decides to reunite with Tenma as soon as possible. Suddenly, a new beast of calamity that controls ice appears on his path. Meanwhile, the Dark Knight freezes the old man and asks him to speak out. The old man begs for his son to be released, agreeing to any conditions the kidnapper may ask. The knight replies that the old man will soon do whatever he is ordered to do anyway. He says he understood everything when he saw the armor forged from magical dragons. The race of magical dragons is so powerful that their will lives on in their scales even after death. This residual will in the armor gradually absorbs the consciousness of the wearer. Eventually, the human body will be completely taken over by the dragon essence, and he will turn into a real dragon through complete assimilation with the equipment. Returning to the past, Iberia mentally asks Itsuki to return alive. Itsuki notices that Iberia admires Tenma, and Tenma confirms that he wants to be like him. Itsuki asks the reason for such a desire, which greatly confuses Iberia. He reminds us that Iberia has seen many other incredible people before. He cites Aiden, Wajin Tae, and even Iento Izumi as examples. Itsuki notes that even he himself has more fame and combat experience than Tenma. So why, of all people, does he want to be like him? Iberia is embarrassed and tries to avoid answering, saying that he is just curious. But on reflection, he admits to himself that he never thought about the reason. A flashback to 10 years ago begins, where little Iberia rejoices in the sword. His mother asks him if he likes his birthday present, and he shouts an excited yes. He decides to name his sword the Sword of the Invincible Hero of Justice. The boy happily declares that he is awakened and threatens the beasts with disasters. He runs eagerly across the yard to show off his new sword to everyone around. His mother sadly asks him to be careful, and the man next to him doubts whether he has any friends. A bully boy asks enviously to look at someone else's gift. The hooligans surround the boy, convincing him to give up the sword because his father will make a new one. The boy is desperate not to give up his new sword, but is afraid to refuse. The bully asks menacingly if the boy can't even lend them a toy. The hooligans take the sword and run away, pretending to be heroes. The humiliated boy quietly asks that his thing be returned to him. The mother greets her son and asks him with a smile if he had a good time. The son, with tears in his eyes, forces a smile and lies that he was having fun. The mother asks about the sword, and the father guesses that the hooligans took it away again. The angry mother decides to go and return her son's sword. The father says bitterly that even if the sword is returned, the situation will repeat itself. The father hits the hammer in anger, disappointed that his son cannot stand up for himself. The boy cries in a dark corner, hearing his father's angry words about him being a coward. Crying, he wonders why he admires a certain Itsuki so much. Several months later, the father, in despair, shakes the doctor, who says he is powerless. The father cannot believe that all they can do is wait for his wife to die. A boy named Iberia stands at the bedside of his dying mother. The mother tenderly holds her son's hand and asks him not to cry. She says her father thinks he's weak, but she knows he's just very kind. The mother explains that kindness without strength can turn into cruelty. She asks him to promise to become strong and believes that he will become a great savior. As a last request, she asks her son to take care of his father. The mother's heart stops, and the heart monitor shows a straight line. Crying, Iberia vows to become the strongest, bravest, and kindest savior in the world. Standing by his mother's body, he again wonders why he wants to be like Itsuki so much. He remembers his first meeting with Itsuki and how much he feared his power back then. Spending time together, Iberia realized that Itsuki was more than just strong. Itsuki faces hundreds of awakened enemies alone. He fights the terrible beast, demonstrating unbreakable resilience. Despite his stern appearance, Itsuki always treats his allies kindly. Iberia explains to his comrade why he always wanted to be like Itsuki. He says that Itsuki is a strong, brave, and kind savior, just like he dreamed of becoming. Iberia considers himself a talentless coward, incapable of becoming like Itsuki, but he decides with a crazy smile that it is enough for him to simply fight next to him. He says that this is enough for him, turning into a huge monster. In the form of a monster, Iberia stands opposite Itsuki in the middle of a scorched clearing. In the dead of night on the second day of the prophecy, a monster flies across the sky. Itsuki is surprised why Iberia is wearing the forbidden dragon equipment again. Itsuki notices that Iberia's reaction in this form is very strange. The monster roars and says something in an incomprehensible ancient language. Itsuki comes to and anxiously asks where Aiden is. Suddenly, a huge, roaring monster in red armor appears in front of him. Itsuki watches in shock as the monster looms over him. He stands over the fallen monster, holding a piece of its armor in his hands. Itsuki screams in despair at the monster, calling it by its name, Iberia. The monster activates the Windblade skill, preparing to attack. A powerful gust of wind rushes towards Itsuki. Itsuki uses mana detection to analyze the attack. The Wind Mage's attack sends him flying into a tree, injuring him. He doesn't understand if this is a side effect of the equipment or if Iberia is under control. Itsuki tries to stop him by activating the Thunderbreak spell. A powerful bolt of lightning strikes the red-armored monster. The monster lets out a furious roar despite the damage it has received. Itsuki recognizes Iberia's mana, but can't believe he attacked him. Tsuzuki suddenly appeared and asked in anger what had happened. Iberia, with all her strength, begs Itsuki to kill him. Iberia's body begins to shake and vibrate uncontrollably. Tsuzuki rushes to help and shouts at Itsuki to watch out. He delivers a crushing blow with his fist to the monster. The blow throws Iberia a huge distance, slamming her into the ground. Tsuzuki grimly tells Itsuki that the worst has already happened to Iberia. Iberia instantly rises up and locks them in a ring of her energy. Itsuki realizes that the dragon gear has completely consumed Iberia. He decides that he needs to remove the cursed armor from him as quickly as possible. Jesuk objects that it is useless, since the armor has already merged with the body. He remembers that such equipment cannot be removed until the wearer dies. Sasuke comes to the conclusion that they have no choice but to kill Iberia. He prepares to deliver the killing blow and tells Itsuki to step back. Itsuki stops him, saying that he will do it himself. He asks Jizuke to rescue the kidnapped Aiden by following his trail. Itsuki says he needs to talk to Iberia and summons Death Dog. Sasuke warns that this must be put an end to. Otherwise, Iberia will become stronger. Iberia, in the form of a monster, is preparing for a new, powerful attack. Itsuki rushes forward with the summoned dog. Iberia uses the Wind Blade skill again. The attack wounds Itsuki in the neck and his mimicry skill fails. Bleeding, Itsuki asks if Iberia really wants to harm him. The monster activates an upgraded version of the skill, 1,000 Blades of Wind. A barrage of glowing blades rushes towards Itsuki. Countless blades of wind entangle and pierce Itsuki's body. Bleeding, Itsuki survives and looks at his opponent in rage. Meanwhile, somewhere in another world, a huge fire demon roars in unbearable pain. The messenger reports to Lord Ling that they have captured Aiden, but 2 demon kings have fallen in battle with the humans. Lord Ling calmly replies that the loss of the kings is not important, because Aiden is now in their hands. The messenger also reports that Lord Monkey Eater has encountered unexpected difficulties. The many-eyed advisor says that the Devourer was only supposed to hold back the heroes, but he faces only one fighter. Lord Ling is surprised that someone can hold off the Devourer single-handedly and asks his name. The advisor replies that this man's name is Heaton Sho, and he has an absolute physical body. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, Heaton Sho delivers a crushing blow, splitting the ground. He clashes fiercely with a giant opponent, creating a powerful shockwave. The observer is shocked that the battle has been going on for a day already, because even his wounds have managed to heal. The clash of 2 titans continues with incredible force and fury. The audience is amazed by the battle of such a level, recognizing Heaton's opponent as one of the 8 demon kings. The bespectacled girl watches in horror as Heaton endures blows that could destroy the earth. She decides to intervene, fearing that if he falls, no one will be able to stop the monster. The helmeted warrior stops her, assuring her that Heaton is not so fragile that he could die from such attacks. He explains that every special class fighter is a monster at the pinnacle of humanity. The Demon Monkey King stamps his foot in rage, realizing that he cannot defeat his opponent. The monster grows to gigantic proportions, looming over Heaton's tiny figure. The warrior in the helmet says that he hasn't seen Heaton's second form for a long time, which surprises his companion. She notices that he has become different, and the warrior explains that in this state his powers grow, but he becomes cruel. Heaton, in his second form, easily withstands a direct blow from a giant monster. Surrounded by the aura of a tyrant, Heaton furiously launches a counterattack on his enemy. With a powerful uppercut, he throws the huge demon monkey high into the air. Heaton lands, leaving a crater, while the defeated monster falls behind. Despite his severe wounds, Heaton continues to move, rushing towards a new goal. The girl asks where he is going, and the warrior assumes that he wants to destroy the barrier statue. She's amazed that Heaton remains sane in this state and doesn't just go around destroying everything. The warrior agrees that Heaton's blind rage in this form would have led to an even greater disaster. He wouldn't be a true protector of humanity if he couldn't control his power. Heaton delivers the finishing blow to his target while the demon watches helplessly. Coming to his senses, Heaton, in his normal form, looks around and doesn't understand where he is. He sees the defeated enemy and realizes that he has risen to the surface again. The exhausted fighter lies on the rubble, calling his opponent annoying as always. A huge sphere of red energy explodes in the sky above the battlefield. The girl looks at the night sky with relief and hopes that it's finally all over. The warrior asks his companion if she really tried to heal Heaton at the cost of her life. He notes that this is not like her calm demeanor, and says that she is becoming like Tima. The girl thinks about Tem, hoping that he will cope because his comrades are with him. At this time, Tema screams in horror, asking Itsuki why he doesn't dodge the attack. Itsuki explains that pain disables his senses, so he will no longer dodge attacks. A bloodied Tema looks at his enemy in rage. Tema grabs the monster by the muzzle, preparing to counterattack. By uttering the name Iberia, Tema concentrates dark energy in his hand. He activates the clear sphere and declares it is the end. Tema directs a powerful clot of dark energy straight into the monster's mouth. The defeated monster falls lifelessly behind him. Tema catches the weakened Itsuki and hugs him tightly. A tearful Itsuki apologizes, admitting that he made a mistake again. He cries out tearfully that he didn't want to be a burden to Tema. Tema calmly replies that he never considered him a burden. Itsuki asks again hopefully, and Tema says that they just have different roles. Itsuki recalls that the monster wanted to subjugate his father, not kill him. He begs Timu to save his father, and he asks him to trust him. Itsuki talks about the monster of disaster that caused all the tragedies. Tema, with a blazing gaze, vows to destroy this monster with his own hands. Smiling through his tears, Itsuki was glad he was able to talk to him one last time. His final request is to take care of Double E. At 3:33 in the morning, Iberia Hiss dies in Tema's arms. The villain on the throne smirks, saying that this is just the beginning. He promises to brutally destroy all of Tema's loved ones one by one. The blue-haired knight decides that they will have to escort Izumi deeper into the mountains. He notes that Heaton is barely able to stand on his feet after a tough fight. The girl in glasses reports that Jiris has detected an abnormal emotional wave. The source of the powerful wave is very close, right ahead. The knight screams, mistaking the seated figure for a beast of disaster in human form. The girl looks at the familiar figure in amazement. She recognizes Timu, who is sitting on the ground holding someone in his arms. Tema looks up and addresses her, calling her teacher Ageha. Ageha, horrified, asks what happened to him and where all these wounds came from. A man with a wolf emerges from the shadows, promising to explain everything. Ageha and her companion turn around in surprise at the stranger's voice. The stranger introduces himself as First-Class Rescue Officer Joshuke Bokuto. Ageha recognizes Aiden's bodyguard and asks why he is here. Susuke admits with a heavy sigh that they have lost this battle. The battle resulted in destruction, the kidnapping of Aiden Hiss, and the death of his son, Iberia. Suzuki says he set up a death mark to track the beast's mana, but instead of the original, he could only find its numerous clones. He concludes that the beast is very cunning and left clones to hide its location. Suzuki turns the conversation to Tema's condition, asking what's wrong with him. Ageha says the wounds are not serious, but Tema stubbornly refuses to treat her. Moreover, she feels the flame of rage burning inside him, becoming even stronger. She is afraid that if this continues, his heart will be completely consumed by hatred. Tema looks alone at an old photograph of her happy family. His memory flashes back to meeting a boy named Iberia while he was carrying a wounded girl. He remembers how Iberia hugged him and swore that he would never leave him. In another memory, a madly smiling Iberia offers to name his Shikigami. Back in the present, Tema orders his wolf Shikigami, Death, to move forward. The B-rank Death Hound howls, showing off its impressive stats. Covered in wounds, Tema declares that he is going to hunt down the beast of disaster. With eyes burning with rage, he vows to find and destroy his enemy. Suddenly, his teacher appears in the doorway, wearing a dark robe and helmet. Tema asks the teacher in surprise what happened to him and why he is here. One of the teacher's companions looks at the wounded boy with doubt. He recalls the rumors of Tema's strength and cruelty, having defeated the monster single-handedly. The teacher asks where he is going, and Tema replies that he is going to save Aiden. Tema is furious when the teacher forbids him to go, and his eyes flash green. The teacher explains that Tema is not yet a rescuer, and the incident has been assigned a special danger class. To participate in such an operation, you need at least a second-class rescuer rank. The teacher concludes that Tema does not yet have such rights, provoking his anger. Tema shouts that he will save Aiden even if they try to stop him. The teacher's companions are shocked by the boy's insolence, and Ageha asks her father to be gentler. The teacher coldly asks if Timu would be okay with someone dying because of him. He admits his guilt, because he weakened Aiden's defenses by misjudging the threat. He believes that Aiden will not be killed, but Tema will simply die if she challenges them. However, the teacher believes in Tema's limitless potential and his ability to become stronger. He promises to personally entrust the alliance with rescuing Aiden when Tema is ready. Having calmed down, Tema asks what he needs to do to surpass the special class. The teacher offers him the only way out: Participation in the Apex training camp. He explains that the Apex camp is inviting the top 100 fighters from the national tournament. All the strongest warriors of humanity underwent his training and became the key force of defense. Successfully passing the camp's tests guarantees Tema a high rank in the tournament. But most importantly, this will be the shortest path to becoming a special class rescuer. Tema, determined, agrees to take part in the Apex camp. The teacher says that first we need to deal with his wounded body. Agaha uses her magic and a bright green butterfly begins to heal Tema's wounds. While being treated, Tema asks Agaha if she knows anything about Camp Apex. She is surprised by his interest and asks why he decided to participate. Agaha explains with concern that only the greatest geniuses are allowed into the Apex camp. Even those who have been praised as child prodigies all their lives are getting there for the first time. Agaha says that many people realize their mediocrity and break down, experiencing a mental breakdown. She calls Camp Apex not only a place for geniuses, but also their graveyard. The training there is extremely brutal, and the level of testing is incredibly high. Because of this, fatalities occur in the camp every year. Ageha uses her healing abilities on the injured Ten. Tene was worried that he would not meet worthy opponents, but his fears were in vain. He believes that only by fighting on the brink of life and death can he become stronger. Tene notices that Agaha's face has turned red, and asks if she is tired from the treatment. An embarrassed Agaha waves it off, explaining that her body is simply heating up from using the skills for so long. For the first time in her life, she hears her own heartbeat so clearly. The girl, embarrassed, tries to drive away the thoughts that have flooded her. Tene thanks Agaha for the treatment and is about to leave, but she asks where he is going. He replies that he needs to say goodbye to someone. Teen and his friend named Zek stand at a gravestone in the forest. The tombstone bears the name Iberia His and the dates of her short life. Zek apologizes for the cruel task, but Tene replies that it was his own choice. Tene confirms that she is leaving to hone her skills at Camp Apex and kill the beast of calamity. Tene says that if it weren't for his teacher, he would have died long ago and never become awakened. Zek looks at his armor and weapons, which remind him of something. Zek declares that he owes everything, even his life, to his teacher, and he will find him at any cost. He clenches his fist, determined to keep his promise. Ten promises to be the savior and asks Zika not to die before they save Aiden. Zek thinks with a smile that Tene's determination makes him ashamed of himself. Zek agrees to wait, and they seal their promise with a fist bump. Ageha is surprised at how quickly Tene came to his senses, suppressing his negative emotions. She assumes he did it so he could one day release them all into the open. Her father speaks of suspicious elements in the recent attack and plans to call a meeting. He asks his daughter to take care of Ten in his absence. Ageha agrees with a confident smile and asks her father to grant it to her. Tene notices that Agaha looks unusually happy while she is turned into stone. Tenya asks where the teacher went, but Ageha replies that this is classified information. She announces that she is now his guardian, which slightly confuses Tina. When Tenya asks about her future plans, she replies that everything is obvious. Agaha says that they are heading to the central continent to Camp Apex immediately. Meanwhile, another young man, completely bandaged, screams in unbearable pain. His mother tries to calm him down by telling him that she is there. She asks him anxiously if he dreamed again about the man who hurt him. He swears that he will make the offender pay in full for the pain and turn his life into hell. The mother promises that his older brother has returned and will definitely avenge him. His brother, a huge man, appears in the room and sympathizes with Reiji's pain. Reiji, covered in bandages, screams in pain and asks his brother to make the bastard pay. The brother finds out that it was the orphan Tima who did it, who took first place in the qualifiers. Shrouded in an ominous aura, the brother realizes that Tema will definitely participate in the Apex camp. Smirking evilly, he swears that he will crush Tema right there. Meanwhile, Tema arrives at the camp with a blue-haired woman named Ageha. Tema looks at the huge, futuristic building with admiration, surprised by its appearance. He notes that everything looks exactly as Ageha said as people enter the glass dome. Tema sees the other members who look very proud and strong. Ageha reports that he can't get inside, and now Tema must act on his own. She returns to him the recording bracelet necessary for staying at the camp. Agaha advises him to keep a low profile so as not to become an easy target for others. Tema confidently walks towards the entrance of the building, saying that he knows everything. Agaha looks after him with anxiety, worried about his character. Tema approaches the registration desk to register as a participant. The receptionist extends his hand and asks to show the bracelet. A man scans Tema's bracelet with a device surrounded by blue energy. Tema was impressed, noting the high level of service even among the reception staff. The employee suggests that level 0 could only have gotten here through connections. He looks down on Tema, thinking that without skills he won't last long. The registrar tells Tema to choose a room and pay for the stay. Tema is completely confused because he didn't know that he had to pay here. The employee replies with disdain that this place is not a charity. Tema is upset that Agaha didn't warn him because he has no money at all. The registrar asks about the points earned in the qualifiers, but Tema doesn't understand what he's talking about. The man explains that wealth here is determined by points, which are credited to your account upon entry. He adds that points can also be earned by completing various tasks. Points are the local currency used to purchase food, items, and housing. Tema understands the importance of points and hopes that he earned enough in the qualifiers. The employee impatiently rushes him to choose a room. To the receptionist's surprise, Tema asks how much the most expensive room costs. The employee shows housing options, from a regular room to a villa for 2,000 points. Tema thinks he needs a bigger room because he has his pet Death with him. He firmly declares that he is taking the villa. The registrar is shocked and tries to dissuade the guy from spending all his points on housing. Tema is adamant and demands that the documents for the villa be drawn up. The employee sighs as he fills out the paperwork, calling Tema an ignorant child. He hands Tema the renewed bracelet. The registrar informs that in the camp, the status of each player becomes private. After watching Tema, the employee wonders how many points he earned. He checks the data on the computer and his face distorts with utter surprise. The employee does not believe his eyes, doubting the accuracy of the glasses displayed. An incredible amount of over 100,000 points appears on the screen. He falls to the floor in despair, remembering his measly 1,600 points. Timu goes outside, and those around him comment warily on the strength of the newcomers. Suddenly, he realizes that he forgot to ask where his villa is. He has no choice but to turn around and go back to the reception. Two suspicious strangers block his path, and he asks what they want. Strangers introduce themselves with a false smile and offer their help to the lost person. He asks for directions to the villa, and they hesitantly point in that direction. Upon hearing the word villa, the extortionists freeze in complete amazement. He asks what's going on, and they frantically try to remember the way. Timu watches them whisper with suspicion and wonders about their plan. A girl with cat ears named Shion Akagami appears and takes 5th place. Her cat notices that the two are trying to extort points from the newbie again. Shion wonders with a grin which idiot fell for their trick this time. Suddenly, she recognizes the newcomer as a monster who has scored more than 100,000 points. Having realized who is in front of her, the girl anticipates an interesting sight. The extortionists discuss him living in a villa, but doubt his strength. The blonde is sure that they are looking at just a spoiled boy who doesn't know the value of glasses. He believes that rich kids are always cowards and sees the boy as the perfect target. They decide to take all his points, but Timu loses patience and is about to leave. Fearing that the target would leave, the blonde joyfully shouts that he remembered the way. Observers recognize the extortionists as outcasts from the southern continent and pity their victim. Those around him consider him weak and sympathize with him that he will lose all his points. Another participant recalls Tem's strange questions and is surprised by his bad luck. Gaku Ozu appears, thinking only about how to surpass the number 1 of the continent. Finally, they reach a huge and modern area of villas. The blonde man, with a predatory smile, announces that it is time to pay for the escort. Timu calmly agrees and says that he should give a tip for accompanying him for so long. The extortionists are stunned by how easily he agreed to give them the money. He calmly asks how much they want to receive for their services. One asks for 500. But the other shuts him up and brazenly demands 1,000 points. He agrees to 1,000 without hesitation, which shocks them again. Timu asks how to transfer the glasses, and the blonde thinks he's a complete idiot. Seeing his submission, they become insolent and demand 5,000 points. The villain threatens that if he doesn't have the required amount, he will take everything. Timu's face darkens, and he coldly asks if they are trying to deceive him. The extortionist sense a sharp change in his aura and realize that he is not so simple. They try to threaten him with physical violence if he does not give up the glasses. Shrouded in an ominous aura, Timu says that he is already very angry And now anything is possible. The extortionist boasts that he took 6th place in the qualifiers and won't lose to such trash. He shouts that he will turn the enemy into ashes and activates the A-rank skill Lightning Strike. The blow hits the target, but Temu absorbs the lightning skill, gaining 10% to agility. The attacker sees in horror that his attack had no effect, and the enemy did not even flinch. Temu delivers a crushing kick to the face, sending the extortionist flying. His helmeted accomplice is shocked by Temu's speed, which his eyes cannot keep up with. The second extortionist decides that against such a fast enemy, he must finish everything with one blow. He speculates that Temu has an ability that alters his body, just like he does. Calling Temu a troublemaker, he announces that he will use both of his enhanced arms. The giant unleashes a barrage of blows on Temu with his multiplied and enlarged arms, but Temu easily blocks all attacks, considering them too slow. In response, Temu himself delivers a series of lightning-fast blows, crushing the enemy. The giant can't believe that his enhanced attack and defense were useless. Temu coldly replies that the enemy's stats, even with the buffs, are no match for him. The defeated enemy asks who he is and what continent he comes from. Shrouded in a dark aura, he introduces himself as Itsuki Tenma from the northern continent. The system notifies him that the next attack will be 100% critical. His fist, filled with dark energy, rushes straight towards the face of the first extortionist. At the last moment, Temu stops the blow right in front of the second opponent's face. He reflects that a critical hit would have taken his head off, and he almost did something irreparable. Red veins bulge on his neck, and he coldly orders the extortionist to leave. The frightened opponents run away in panic, screaming that Temu is a real monster. The fox-eared girl watched the fight, noting that he was truly a terrifying man. All participants are asked to gather immediately at Apex Square over the loudspeaker. The cat girl tells her pet that the test is about to start and it's time to work. Temu recalls that at this stage, half of all trial participants are eliminated. He resolutely heads towards the square, realizing that he will have to give it his all. Arriving at the place, he sees a crowd consisting of the elite from all continents. His attention is drawn to a female warrior who looks like a high-level commander. Someone touches his shoulder and he instantly turns around, ready to fight. The pink-haired girl looks at his sharp reaction in surprise. Temu recognizes her as his friend and says her name, Saya, in surprise. Saya asks with a grin if he was going to hit her, and their companion is surprised by the greeting. He apologizes, explaining that he mistook her for an enemy, and she thinks he is always tense. Temu asks where Iberia is, since he and Saya have always been inseparable. He notices her condition and wonders if she was injured in the last attack. Temu says with a serious expression that Iberia stayed at home. The companion calms Temu down and asks Saya what's happening to her since that attack. In response to his tactless question, Saya hits him on the head with a scream. Temu states that that attack showed his weakness, and he intends to give it his all. Saya calls for everyone to be quiet as the admissions test is about to begin. A loud call for silence rings out across the vast crowd gathered. The organizer announces that before starting life at the camp, everyone must know one thing. He announces through a megaphone that all information except names will be kept strictly confidential. The heroes listen to an announcement that they will all have to start from scratch. Harino asks in surprise if all their information is really hidden. As proof, he shows his status, where all data is hidden, which Itsuki confirms. The examiner announces the start of the admissions test in front of the glowing portal. Participants are asked to enter the testing hall in an orderly manner through the portal. Upon entering, the heroes are amazed by the enormous size of the hall, which is more spacious than the qualifying ones. The stranger addresses Itsuki, calling him a brat who made fools of their continent. This arrogant youth turns out to be Kagen Imami, the first in the southern continent preliminaries. His companions complain that he humiliated them and mocked their disorganization. Kagen looks menacingly at Itsuki and demands an explanation from him. Harino stands up for his friends, suggesting that some mistake has occurred. Harino tells Kagen that they taught his henchmen a lesson and he should be grateful. In response, Kagen delivers a lightning-fast, crushing blow to Harino's face. He viciously warns that he will rip off the hand of anyone who touches him. Itsuki catches the falling Harino and shouts furiously at the offender. Itsuki says he's not going to explain the details and looks at Kagen. With his eyes blazing, Itsuki threatens to kill Kagen if he touches his friends. Kagina is thrown back, and his companions remind him of the penalty for fighting. Kagen suggests they fight on the training grounds, and Itsuki agrees. The examiner greets everyone with sarcasm and wants to maintain a fighting spirit. He is going to explain the rules of the virtual test, although there is almost nothing to explain. With a grin, he declares that there are no rules to this test. The participants are shocked because they have never seen a test without any rules. They will have to go through 4 tests in 4 rooms with no equipment restrictions. The goal of the test is to maximize your status, and the grade depends on your performance. For 80 points, you get bonuses, and those who score less than 60 will be excluded. Some participants are happy because they can use powerful items without restrictions. Harino regrets coming empty-handed, but Saya is confident in their training. Saya asks Itsuki which status test they should take first. Itsuki replies that it doesn't matter and suggests starting with the next test. Harino is delighted, believing this to be the perfect opportunity. Heading into the defense test, Harino boasts about his confidence in controlling metal. Inside the room, Harino points up and asks if the man is the examiner. The examiner introduces himself as a level 40 Earth Elementalist and greets them. He explains that he will attack them with 5 types of stones of varying difficulty. The participant's task is to defend themselves from his attacks in order to successfully pass the test. The instructor calls the first cadet, Rigure Harino, who asks in surprise if he is really starting. Rigure confidently declares to his friends that he is not afraid of any rocks, and the girl wishes him luck. The examiner allows Rigure to activate his skills in advance before the test begins. Rigure decides to go all out right away and activates the adamantine body skill, which increases defense. He assumes a fighting stance, preparing to attack, and his defense stat reaches 258. The examiner announces the first difficulty of the first level and creates a small, glowing stone in his hand. The examiner throws a stone at great speed straight into the subject's chest. Rigure easily blocks the blow and mockingly asks if that's all, since he didn't feel anything. He gets bored and asks the instructor to immediately move on to the second level of difficulty. The instructor calmly agrees and forms a new, more powerful energy projectile. A second-level enhanced stone flies towards Rigure, who prepares to reflect it. The projectile slams into him, creating a powerful shockwave that throws him back. His comrades watch him with concern, and the girl asks if he is okay. Rigure gives a thumbs up with a smile, assuring everyone that he is okay. The protagonist activates mana detection and realizes that these are not simple stones, but clots of the examiner's energy. He realizes that the durability of these mana stones is incredibly high, and they deal massive damage. Rigure feels his hands starting to go numb as the blows were stronger than he expected. The examiner asks if he wants to continue, and Rigure brazenly demands level 3. He tries to calm himself down by saying that this is just the next level and everything will be fine. For the third level, the instructor creates a huge, rotating stone of concentrated energy. Rigure puts on a brave face and shouts that he is not afraid, even though the stone has become much larger. The third-level stone slams into him with crushing force, creating a powerful explosion. His friends watch the aftermath of the blow in horror, not believing their eyes. Rigure lies unconscious on the floor, his body covered in bruises and his defense skill deactivated. The comrades run up to the fallen Rigure, excitedly shouting his name. He rises, admitting that he didn't expect the third level to be at least 3 times as powerful. The examiner is impressed and says that most would have passed out, so Rigure will get a decent score. The instructor calls the next participant, who turns out to be Ishuki Tenma from the northern continent. Rigure warns Ishuki that the stone's power grows with each level, but he replies that he knows. The examiner asks Ishuki what difficulty level he would like to begin the test with. Ishuki muses that his defense, thanks to the black ice wall, is already at 627. The instructor, seeing Ishuka's doubts, suggests starting from the first level if he doesn't choose it himself. Ishuki extends his hand forward and declares that he wants to try the 5th level straight away. Rigure screams in panic that even the 3rd level was the limit for him, and the 4th is suicide. The other cadets whisper, calling him a show-off, but they remember the rumors about the number 1 from his continent. The examiner says that every year such an upstart is found and creates a huge stone of the 5th level. He continues that such cadets receive serious injuries and are expelled from the camp. The instructor says with a grin that he doesn't mind if Ishuki looks for problems for himself. The cadets look at the giant rock in horror, realizing that Camp Apex is truly dangerous. The instructor suggests using skills, but Ishuki replies that he doesn't have any special skills and is fine as is. Ishuki, shouting, "Hold on!" falls onto the rock, and someone asks in surprise if it's charging. The cadets cover their faces with their hands, blinded by the bright flash from the impact. Shocked observers compare its power to a meteorite and are certain that it has died. The instructor calls him a fool, but immediately calls the medics on the radio because of the critical situation. Suddenly, one of the cadets points in horror at a shadow that has appeared in the smoke. A silhouette emerges through the smoke, and someone asks incredulously if he is still standing. The medical captain answers the radio, asking for the victim's location, and the instructor freezes in shock. Ishuki stands calmly in the middle of the smoke and asks if it was a B difficulty test. The instructor is shocked, thinking that this is the first time he has seen someone without any training withstand such a blow. Ishuki is about to leave, and the instructor mentally calls him a real monster. The cadets retreat, sensing his intimidating aura, and Ishuki doesn't understand why everyone is avoiding him. The girl and boy approach Ishuki, admiring his strength and acknowledging his superiority in defense. Ishuki humbly replies that no one is perfect, and Rigure hopefully asks how he can surpass him. Ishuki sheepishly asks to forget about it. And then the next participant, Saya Kisaragi, is announced. Ishuki and Rigure wish Saya good luck, advising her to be careful during the test. The instructor allows Saya to use her skill to defend herself from a flying rock. Saya activates a B-rank skill called Wall of Flowing Water. She boldly chooses the 3rd difficulty level, and the instructor starts the test. The energy projectile slams into her water barrier with tremendous force. Saya tensely holds back the attack, but a powerful blow begins to break through her defense. An exhausted Saya falls to one knee, but manages to stop the stone at her feet. The instructor looks at her with approval and briefly praises her, saying that it was clever. He explains that she didn't block the blow, but cleverly used the flow of water to divert it. The instructor says that resourcefulness is important in combat, and Saya thanks him for the praise. Saya is greeted with praise by her friends, and the host announces the next participant. Saya is shyly glad that Ishuki himself praised her for the successful test. The trio walk down the hallway, discussing the next attack power test. They arrive at a huge hall, filled to capacity with other cadets. The new purple-haired instructor notices that the second group has arrived. He stands up and announces that this test will evaluate the strength of the cadets' punches. Rigure carelessly asks if they'll have to attack the instructor, and Saya cuts him off. The instructor replies with a grin that the target will not be him, but his Shikigami. He summons a massive and terrifying B-rank Shikigami in the form of a teddy bear. Rigure and Saya look at the creepy creature in horror, calling it devilry and abomination. However, Ishuki, unlike everyone else, blushes and finds the creepy bear very cute. The instructor encourages everyone to hit the bear with all their might, using weapons or bare hands. The cadets laugh, thinking the bear is a sack, and ask what will happen if they break it. The instructor confidently states that awakened ones of their level cannot break Tonma. To demonstrate, he lightly hits the bear, which scores 50 points. He explains that the system evaluates hits in points, and the maximum score is 100. Instructor Tom says with a grin that beginners will never achieve the perfect result. He sits relaxed in a rocking chair and announces the start of the test. Yuichiro Hanma goes first, confident that he will easily score 100 points. Observers discuss that the examiner is much stronger than he appears at first glance. Examiner Tom, surrounded by energy, orders the attack when he is ready. Hanma reluctantly prepares to strike the seemingly harmless Shikigami. He concentrates green energy in his fists, shouting that he needs to stay at camp. With a furious cry, he delivers a crushing blow to the target. Hanma lies on the floor in shock, as his hit only scored 37 points. Tom impatiently drinks from his cup and orders them not to waste time. The other participants hit, receiving 28, 49, and 77 points. The examiner, leafing through the magazine, calls out the next fighter named Gaku Ooze. The muscular Gaku Ooze mocks the previous participant's poor performance. He stares at the Shikigami, guessing that it is very durable. Gaku is confident in his strength and prepares to strike, filling his weapon with red energy. He swings his huge hammer with incredible force. Tom appraisingly says that it's not bad, and the Shikigami shows 91 points. Gaku is disappointed because he still hasn't managed to score 100 points. He claims that no one can match his strength, and 91 points is good. Gaku searches the crowd for Itsuki Tenma, wondering what kind of result he will show. The examiner announces that Itsuki Tenma is next to speak. Gaku glares at him, anticipating the chance to see his true power. He recalls Tenma's record but believes his 100-fold hammer is stronger. His weapon, the 100-fold hammer, has a unique effect of increasing attack power by 100. Gaku is confident that Tenma's attack power is equal to his own at best. Tenma approaches the Shikigami, feeling a little guilty in front of the cute creature. The examiner thinks boredly that this is another weakling who is unable to score 100. Tenma's fist is enveloped in dark red energy, preparing to strike. He strikes with a swift blow, leaving behind a trail of dark energy. The blow hits the target precisely, causing a powerful explosion of energy. Tom looks absently at the magazine, commenting on the figure of the girl on the cover. A powerful shockwave from Tenma's strike rushes straight towards the examiner. A sudden wave knocks him off his feet and he cries out in amazement. He realizes in horror that Tenma tore Tonma apart with his bare hands. Tenma stands in a red aura, realizing that his critical hits have finally accumulated. He looks at the defeated Shikigami and is surprised that he is still alive. He asks the Shikigami for his score, and he answers with difficulty that it is 100 points. The other participants are shocked by the perfect score obtained with bare hands. Gaku despairs when he realizes that the difference between them is more than just 9 points. He realizes that 100 points is the limit of the scale, not Tenma's power. The red-haired warrior thinks what a self-confident idiot he was, thinking himself invincible. The instructor says he designed the test so that only a level 50 warrior would achieve a perfect result. Tenma realizes that the instructor is angry about the destruction of the Shikigami and decides to escape as quickly as possible. Tenma apologizes, and the instructor announces a 10-minute pause in testing. The girl and the muscular man admire Tenma's strength, who modestly calls it luck. The man shouts enthusiastically about the maximum score, and the girl asks him to calm down. The girl suggests that Tenma take another test while they wait for this test to resume. Tenma agrees with a smile and suggests meeting in the square after all the tests are finished. The red-haired warrior approaches Tenma and the next test, a mana test, is announced. A red-haired female instructor explains the mechanics of the new test to the assembled participants. The men in the crowd are fascinated by the instructor and hope to impress her. The girl with fox ears looks at them with disdain, calling them typical guys. She notices Tenma, who is also looking at the instructor, and decides that all men are the same. Tenma looks at the pedestal curiously, wondering what kind of testing device is hidden under the fabric. The instructor announces that they will use a device she created to measure mana. The cloth is pulled off the device, and everyone sees a rare instrument, a crystal for storing mana. The woman explains a simple method. You need to place your hand on the crystal and pour your mana into it. She demonstrates the process, saying that the more mana the participant has, the higher the result will be. One of the participants asks worriedly what will happen to the other trials if they use up all their mana. The instructor reassures him, promising that the crystal will first drain his mana and then return it back. She suggests starting the test and asks who wants to be first. The man who asked the question volunteers, and the instructor commends his initiative. She whispers seductively in his ear that he can start whenever he is ready. The participant, embarrassed by her beauty, decides to give it his all and break the record. He places his hand on the crystal and releases all his mana with a scream. The guy screams in horror that he put all his strength into it, but the crystal is not even half full. The instructor asks him to calm down and says that she forgot to mention something. She explains with a sinister smile that the crystal drains mana even from level 40 awakened beings. The crowd is shocked, because if even a level 40 awakened one can't fill the crystal, then they will be even more so. The instructor orders the participant to remain still and begins to return his mana. She says that by feeling his mana in the crystal, she can understand what kind of person he is. The woman playfully calls him an innocent soul, which makes the guy blush deeply. Having restored his strength, she turns to the crowd and asks who will be next. The other participants are scared and don't want to take the test, afraid that their mana will be sucked out. Tenma is surprised to see how quickly the crowd's excitement turns to fear. Tenma decides to step forward and the instructor notices the second challenger. He is puzzled because he hasn't even had time to raise his hand yet. A woman in a cloak steps forward and is introduced as Kanu Hanyu from the northern continent. Those around her recognize her as the second most powerful on the continent, and Tenma understands why she seemed familiar. The cat girl notes with interest that two of the best from the northern continent have gathered here. The instructor tells Kana that he knows the rules and can start when he is ready. Kana places her hand on the crystal ball, and a powerful stream of green mana erupts from it. The audience is disappointed, as this is only slightly more than the previous participant. Kana thinks this will be enough to show the southern continent what they are capable of. He grabs the hilt of the sword and the hidden mechanism clicks open. An incredible burst of green magical energy erupts from Kana's sword and body. The crowd screams in shock that this girl's mana simply exploded and became much stronger. Tenma notes with understanding that his sword is the source of this immense mana. He understands that when he draws the blade, a colossal amount of mana flows into his body. Someone from the crowd shouts excitedly that the crystal ball is almost completely full. The instructor is impressed with the result of almost 80%, the best in 5 years. The instructor is happy to meet such a strong girl, but Kana replies that he is a guy. Tenma and the crowd are shocked, because his name and face are purely girlish, but his voice does not fit at all. The instructor chuckles that the boys must be disappointed, and Kana looks confused. Kana says she will return the mana, and after receiving the instructor's consent, she prepares for action. The instructor breathes a sigh of relief, admitting that sending so much mana is tiring. She cheerfully announces that it is the next participant's turn, and asks them to raise their hand. Tenma raises his hand and confidently declares that he is ready for the test. The instructor looks at him with interest, calls him handsome, and asks him to introduce himself. He introduces himself as Itsuki Tenma, and the crowd recognizes him as the first qualifier on the continent. Kana stares at Tenma, thinking that now everyone will see what he is capable of. The audience doubts him because he has no weapons and his profession does not look like magic. Tenma thinks that his base mana is only 380 and won't even fill half of it. But he remembers the passive effect of magic detection, which restores mana. It activates a skill, restoring 10% of mana for each person in the radius. His gaze slid over the crowd, including the instructor and the others awakened in the room. He looks at the instructor, realizing that everyone who awakens here will become his strength. Tenma realizes that they all serve as an inexhaustible source of mana for him. With it, his mana becomes infinite, because for each enemy he receives a replenishment of strength. Those around him don't understand where he still has mana, unlike Kana. The instructor notices with surprise that the crystal ball is almost completely full. Tenma sees that the ball looks full, but feels that there is still room for mana. Then he decides to continue pouring energy until the ball is full. The instructor panics and shouts that the ball is already at its limit and he needs to stop immediately. He looks at her in surprise, and then presses hard on the ball, and it begins to crack. The instructor screams in surprise and covers his face with his hands from the bright explosion. Kana and the other participants are thrown back by the shockwave, hearing the sound of something breaking. Tenma floats calmly above the remains of the device in a vortex of purple energy. He innocently says that he was just pouring in mana and asks if they will make him pay. The crowd whispers in horror about what kind of monster is capable of breaking the crystal with just mana. The red-haired woman thoughtfully recalls the last time she saw such power. She remembers that 10 years ago it was Kazutaka Tsutsumi, and is amazed by his power. She doesn't believe that 10 years later another such unique person has appeared. She reassures him about the device and worries if he has enough mana for other tests. Tenma responds with relief that he still has mana left, much to the woman's surprise. She looks at him in shock, not understanding how he could have any mana left after that. Intrigued, she decides to study the trace of mana left behind. Touching the energy, she sees in it a frightening image of a blue spirit. The woman recoils in horror, unable to bear what she sees. She senses seething rage, regret, and bloodthirsty anger in his mana. She understands that an ordinary person would not be able to withstand such a whirlpool of negative feelings. Itsuki muses that using such a skill in a crowded place was a bit unfair. He decides that since skills are not prohibited, all that remains is a test of dexterity. Suddenly, a girl with pink hair calls out to him, catching up with him and her friend. She asks if he's finished the mana test, and he replies that he's going to the agility test. Itsuki notices that their friend Rigure is depressed, and the girl whispers that he was offended by her superior strength. Rigure shouts in rage that he heard everything, looming over Itsuki. Rigure becomes depressed, fearing that they won't get high grades. Itsuki tries to cheer them up, saying that they can definitely handle it. Rigure is angry because Itsuki will easily pass the tests, and they will be sent to a group under observation. Rigure begs Itsuki not to let him down, as he himself often misses training. The girl asks Itsuki to ignore Rigure and focus on the final test. Itsuki wishes them luck and heads towards the arena for the next test. The girl waves after him with a smile and thanks him. Immediately after this, she spins around and hits Rigure, scolding him for his words. She's worried that because of Rigure's words, Itsuki might deliberately fail the test in order to stay with them. Rigure is confident that Itsuki did so well on the previous tests that his final score won't drop low. He thinks Itsuki is not stupid enough to give up his status as an excellent student. But the girl has her doubts. Meanwhile, Itsuki decides that his final score should be below 80. He doesn't need the bonuses of being an excellent student, because he wants to get into the observation group with Saya and the others. In addition, he expects to receive additional training in this group. Since he didn't hold back before, he now needs to get a 0 on the agility test. Suddenly, 3 people block his path, accusing him of avoiding them. Itsuki calmly asks if they really want to fight him again. The gray-haired boy is glad that Itsuki has not forgotten their promise to fight. Itsuki suggests a rematch after the test, and lightning flashes between them. Itsuki is confused as to why the boy is acting as if he is doing him a favor. He decides to put off the showdown for later and focus on the upcoming test. Itsuki stands alone in the middle of the massive agility test arena. Another participant explains that the dexterity test is essentially a game of cat and mouse. The test begins with a simple analogy where the cat chases and the mouse runs away. The instructor, with a sinister smile, announces that in this test he will be a cat. The test participants are given the unenviable role of mice that will be hunted. He explains the rules, which require participants to run inside a red circle while dodging it. The instructor sets a condition. Anyone who can hold out for just 1 minute will receive a perfect score. Participants laugh at such a simple task, considering it a bonus level and an easy victory. The instructor selects the first victim, Fumiya Fugaga from the southern continent. A comrade encourages a frightened Fumiya, asking him not to disgrace their team. Fumiya immediately gains confidence, boasting about his mastery of the lightning element and superior agility. The instructor adds the final rule. 1 touch means instant defeat, and asks if Fumiya is ready. Fumiya activates her lightning power and confidently shouts that the mouse will chase the cat away by itself. The instructor calmly replies that everything depends on the specific mouse. Suddenly, the instructor disappears from the scene, leaving a stunned Fumiya in complete bewilderment. A shadow with glowing eyes appears behind Fumiya, and his hand immediately grabs him by the hair. The instructor whispers into the captured Fumiya's ear that such a noisy rat is ideal prey.